and learning from these athletes over the last 4 days has been really inspiring.
Yeah, the diabetes has changed since I was diagnosed in '97. Is that I guess that those guys were on insulin pumps with monitoring systems. But the basis is that when I started, you had to inject and a mixture between slow and fast-acting insulin, basically giving you the energy that you need. Basically, insulin breaks down the food that you eat into the glycogen that fuels your muscles, and so it's a balancing act now. When I retired from competing, I went on to the pump, and that's much easier. You're just using fast-acting insulin, but it's drip feeding you a small amount all the time instead of injecting quite big quantities. Now, I say big quantities, it's a tiny little droplet of insulin that you need. So the systems now are much better. And of course, of people like myself, there was an American swimmer. He was more of a sprint swimmer, but with diabetes. He won an Olympic gold medal. Ian Gallen, I spoke about. He's helped diabetics row across the Atlantic. Where you're doing that for 3 or 4 months in a very, I say, controlled environment, but in the wrong ways. Rugby players, footballers, there are lots of athletes now, so it's not a stigma held against you now because there's people that have achieved, but you have to go through that of background. Jürgen Grobler, who came from the East German system to coach us for many, many years, the British team. And he was brilliant because he saw the ability that I had, and then coming down with this condition, is that he was the one that pulled all the experts together. First question was, if we carry on, is this going to damage Steve's health? And if it does, then we don't do it. But otherwise, we'll see how far we can get with this. It was a difficult process. The relationship I had with Ian Gallen was amazing. Is that he was mainly treating type 2 diabetics, and that when I used to come in and saying, well, we've just done a 2K ergo test, and normally when you get fatigue, is that you have it over a period of time. It's not just immediately. I'm saying my energy is going from I could beat the world to suddenly the energy's just been switched off. It was almost like a light switch from going from being a great athlete to a non-athlete. Just literally of that flick of a switch, which in real life in exercise doesn't happen. It creeps up on you and slowly takes you down and not suddenly takes you down, especially with endurance sport. So that feedback helped him manage my process. The racing was the easiest side of it. The training was the hard bit of it. Is that when you're doing 3 or 4 hours of endurance-based training a day, 7 days a week, it was getting that because your exercise burns off your blood sugar levels as well. But if you're not getting any insulin in, so if your blood sugar levels are under control because the exercise you're doing, is that you're not getting the energy back in because you're not producing any insulin. And so your performance disappears downwards. We used to work to a 2.5-day cycle where we do 4 training sessions on the first 2 days. The third day, we would do 2 sessions and have the afternoon off. So the afternoon off in those last 3 years for me was literally of just recovery, of being able to do the next 2.5 days to get through that. When you're part of a team, especially something like rowing, where you're all doing the same thing at the same time in every training session, is that you can't be looked any special than anybody else. And I didn't want to be either. I had to do what they were doing. Sometimes when we're in the gym or those land-based training, I would do a little bit more harder intensity work in the mornings and have it a sort of more recovery time in the afternoons and not so evenly paced throughout the day. But it was sort of a battle all the time. Ian Gallen, when I came to race the first time, it was that his confidence was amazing all the time. Yeah, you can do this, that's not going to be a problem. Yes, this, and this, you follow this routine. When we did our first World Cup race, and he was watching it on the TV, and he describes it as the Doctor Who moment. He was hiding behind his sofa, peering over the top, because he wasn't sure quite what was going to happen. He gave me totally confidence all the time that I felt I know what was going to happen because of his confidence, but he wasn't as confident. And so I used to have to take glucose out in the boat with me just in case. And in those 3 years leading up to Sydney, I was able to get my routines that I didn't need to take anything out in the boat with us. I was totally in tune with what I needed to do and how to go about it. But the funny story of that is in Sydney, just before the final, is that I thought, well, what happens if I have the problem today? So the canteen, I went in there, I got some sachets of sugar and take them into the side of the boat. Didn't need them, but they were just there if needed to be. And forgot all about it. The boat came back to the UK and it went to the River and Rail Museum where it's on display. And that story sort of added to it. And those sugars were still taken into the boat when they took the possession of the boat. So you learn it through, and other conditions where we may think, oh, you can't be an international athlete in a few years' time.
Sorry, Steve.
Sorry,
Steve. Someone's not got their mute on. Sorry to interrupt you, Steve. We've done it. So we've got 91 riders on at the moment, and every now and again a mute is turned off. Sorry for interrupting you there, but the music was blaring.
I've come to the end of that long story.
But also, Steve, that's interesting. That sort of emotional leadership, where basically you're being told you can do something. You know, it's that old, if you smile, everyone smiles. You know, sometimes you don't feel as confident as you need to pretend you are. But as an athlete, that gives you the superpower that, you know, everyone believes in you.
Yeah, I spoke about Jürgen and the way that he looked at it. And the coach that I got my first 2 Olympic gold medals with Mike Spratley, that helped Catherine to her first Olympic success, is that I don't think that he would have had the same patience and would have looked saying, okay, even though we're very close, is that I don't think that he would have given me the time, the recovery time. He would have just sort of saw me as a weak link. Maybe putting words into his mouth for that. He'll be horrified if he heard what I said. But then he went to coach in Canada, and actually they had a diabetic rower. And because I'd done it, he had the attitude, okay, it's been done before, so why can't it? He didn't win the Olympics, but he became world champion. So he wasn't bad.
Can I ask a quick question? When I absolutely loved rowing my first year at university at Glasgow on the Clyde, but it was a battle between enjoying being a fresher and these insanely early starts on the river. And you were talking there about doing 3-4 training sessions a day. Is there a practical reason that you rowers insist in getting up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning? Because I can imagine that's a barrier to entry for a lot of young athletes.
Yeah, very much so. That's one of the things that I think that my sport has got wrong in some ways, is about the preparation. Is that I touched on of going to Maidenhead and playing in their fourths and fifths every now and again. If you turned up on a Saturday morning, you got a game. Within rowing, that doesn't happen. You have to do a number of sessions within a squad or a boat to be able to get that, and then that drives this sort of process of doing more work, more training, more preparation. So I think we race a little bit too often and don't prepare enough. at domestic level, but we have to do a lot of training to be at that level. Just a very, very simple explanation in some ways. If you get two athletes or two people to run over 100 meters, no training, the one with the natural talent will win, but the other guy may be not too far behind, and he thinks, well, if I do a bit more training, if I prepare in this to do a bit more stretching and do what I need, I might be able to turn that result over. And so they race again after the preparation that he's done, and he possibly can turn that victory over. And the guy that's got the more natural talent looks and thinking, okay, if I do what he does, that's going to put me ahead again. So you've got this spiral going up in process. And we've seen it through other sports. Just rowing is a little bit more ahead of that curve. The more you have to do, the better you become. But I do think at junior level and club level that they train too hard for the enjoyment of the sport. But how do you turn that down the other way? You can't. It's a very difficult process. Is that going back to football and rugby days, is that you just trained at school during the sports days. Then you might have a game at the weekend or on Wednesday afternoon, and the coach would say, go and clean your boots. Now, it wasn't the fact of cleaning your boots that was going to make the difference, but it was a process. As you've got the boots out of your bag, you've given them a clean, you're thinking about what may happen the next day, you're thinking about that process. It's a preparation. So it's all about preparation to get what you want to achieve. Very simple process, probably much more complicated than that in some ways, but overall, the more you do, the better you become.
Absolutely. And Steve, thank you. That's echoed not just in sport, but in any part of life. You know, the more preparation, what you look ahead to, what you prepare for. So it's a good time for me just to say to everybody, we are back live across social media. I hope we have people enjoying the conversations. Thank you to Keith at Whoosh in the background, who's keeping me up to date with the messages, the fundraising, everything that's going on in the background. Please do head to doddyaid.com to the Just Giving page for World in a Day. The guys are still at it. There's over 90 riders on at the moment. They're going to get to those 240 miles, and they are going to also, everyone else will cover what they can. Now, Steve, I've got Steve Bate, Paralympian gold medalist, in the waiting room. Are you able to stick around for a little bit longer?
I'll stick around a little bit more.
Thank you.
I'll need to get off my bike in a minute and get rid of the numbness in my rear, but I'll do a bit more.
Of course. Thank you so much. I'll bring in Steve. Here he is. I'll pin him there.
Hey, everybody,
Steve,
all right?
welcome. How are you?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, well, I'm fine. I've just got on, mate, so I'm good to go. Yeah, how's everyone? That's the true question, really. I'm very envious of you all.
Well, I think we can just tell from that first hello that there's going to be a bit of energy in this conversation. It's good to see you. Mark told me that you might raise the energy levels and everything like that for people. So it's great to have you on board. Everyone is doing, I think they're doing fantastically well. Steve there has just been giving incredible stories of his career, mindset, and how people can take on this challenge. We've had nutritionists earlier this morning. We've had Scotland captain. We've had rugby chat. We've had updates on the charity. It's been busy. It's been non-stop. So Steve, it's great to have you. Mark is still on with us. We've got Steve Redgrave. Everyone's here. Steve, as I say, thank you for joining us. Give us a bit of background to yourself, because I know sort of the adventure journey into the Olympics. Where did it all begin?
Yeah, probably at the opposite end of the spectrum from Steve, really. Probably when he was starting to think about retiring, I was starting my career in cycling. So yeah, I probably came from a background that was well, and similar to Steve in many ways. I was dreadful at school, but academically, but also it's I was dreadful at sport as well. So I didn't have that option, and I was a skinny ginger-haired kid growing up in New Zealand. So I got my fair canings at school, which probably deserved. I was a bit lippy, I guess, for being a little guy. But yeah, so my my kind of really sporting career, I guess, kicked off with climbing, I suppose. Like I played rugby as a kid and cricket, but never played for a first team or anything like that. And I guess climbing was really the first passion that I found in sport. I mean, every kid growing up in New Zealand wants to be an All Black. And I heard Steve talking about old Sean Fitzpatrick, who was probably my hero growing up, like absolute legend, a carpenter by trade. That's what I was as well. So he was a real hero of mine. But yeah, I think climbing was really the first thing that kind of dug into me really, and made me, really want to go after it and get busy and try and be the best that I could be. And I was, again, I don't think I was ever going to be a world-class climber, but there was just this passion to learn something, and get out there and mix it up. And, ended up moving to Scotland because, to me, it was the best place to come and climb, really.
Steve, can I interrupt you for 1 second? Because I've got someone that's going to join us. They can only do it for 10 minutes today.
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, bring them in.
You mentioned Scotland, you mentioned the All Blacks, so there's a rugby theme. So I think Jim Hamilton, if anyone's familiar with Big Jim, is just about to join the conversation. We don't want to go through today without getting, here he is. Jim, you there?
That's you got me?
I've got you, Jim. Jim, you're live to the world. You're currently on with Sir Steve Redgrave, Mark Beaumont, Steve Bate. So the room is busy. It's all happening. How are you, mate?
That was Shane Williams. Just you were naming some legends, so I thought I'd name a rugby legend there as well in the background. All good, mate. I'm at Ospreys. I'm in Swansea. We're in the Glasgow Connacht game before from pitchside remotely, however it works. But I landed at Bristol Airport. I wasn't too sure whether I was going to land this morning. Actually, as you know, the wind in Scotland, well, across the country, but especially in Scotland, was pretty brutal. So it took a couple of attempts, but I'm here. How's everyone getting on, Nashi?
They're doing really well, mate. There's 92 riders on at the moment, several people well over 100 miles, some pushing 250 kilometers. There are kids covering hundreds of miles. There's 11-year-olds, 14-year-olds, all led by Mark Beaumont. We've had Olympians on, Hoggy's been on, Jill Douglas has been on. What a morning. It's been fantastic, mate. But thank you for joining. I know you've only got a couple of minutes at your pitch side.
Yeah, no, it's okay. How's your voice, mate? I know you did it last year.
Sorry,
I wasn't sure.
You're breaking up. What did you say?
But as we know, it's for an unbelievable cause. I said, how's your voice?
My voice is fine. Everyone's very kind. They ask me how I'm doing. I'm fine. I'm absolutely fine. It's the riders that we need to get through here. My voice it'll last. But thanks for asking, Jim. Thanks for asking. But the Barbarians, obviously, you're more on the behind the scenes and the admin side.
Yeah, I am. I'll have to apologise. I don't know whether I've been geo-blocked in Wales, but it's probably with the web. So apologies if the connection is not great. Yeah, but I'm manager of the Barbarians. I was captain last year, but I don't see
Jim,
I'll be honest, I'm more about man of the people. So hopefully I'll be pushing to get back.
Jim, we're not really getting you. We're not really getting you. I think he's gone, guys. I do apologise. He did mention that he only had 10 minutes in between games. So where are we? Steve Redgrave is still here. Steve Bates is still here. Mark Beaumont is still here. Steve Bates, hello. And
hey, mate.
There you are. And Steve Redgrave. Steve, if you've got... Are you still there? Thank you very much for hanging around. Appreciate that. Sorry, I was just trying to catch Jim there. But unfortunately, the connection didn't go too well.
Hopefully his broadcast this afternoon goes better than the broadcast he's just done there.
I hope so. I hope so. No, it's fine. He's saying, typical Jim, text message, signal shite, sorry. So it's all good. He made the effort. He was there. We got the message. Jim's obviously been leading the way with Gabby Logan with the Barbarian squad. So they've been putting in the miles and raising the funds. But yeah, thank you guys. The four of you are still here. Steve Bate, I rudely interrupted you, but we were just getting on to life after moving to the UK.
Yeah, so I moved to Scotland really to pursue climbing. I mean, Scotland's incredible. It's such an it's by far still probably my favourite country in the world to ride my bike, to climb. It's just such an incredible playground in such a small, compact area. And so probably after 4 years, I decided that I wanted to be an alpine guide. That was my dream, to go and be one of those guys who drags people up these incredible alpine peaks and and live a life in the mountains. And so I started the long process of the trying to get qualified for the guide scheme, which is an incredibly difficult thing to do. And while I was on that kind of, on that voyage, I got this diagnosis that I was losing my sight. So I got this disease called retinitis pigmentosa, which basically means I've got tunnel vision, but that bit of vision that I can see is slowly decreasing from the outside in. And that kind of scuppered my plans to be an alpine guide, really, because no one's going to go into the mountains with a bloke with a white cane, are they? Let's be honest. So yeah, for me, I guess it was reevaluating what I did. And, at that point, I think I was 34 or 35. And a friend of mine, Karen Dark, suggested that I could race on the back of a tandem for GB and go to the Paralympics. And, at that point in my life, I was just like, I'm too old to be an athlete, that's just, that's a nice dream, but that's stuff like that doesn't really happen to me. And after this diagnosis, it took me a few months to get my head around it and, start kind of being positive about the situation. And yeah, so I kind of targeted El Capitan, which is a 1,000-meter vertical rock face in California, in the Yosemite Valley. And I guess at that time I was trying to go to prove something to myself, really, more than anything else, that, regardless of this eye condition, I could still live the life I wanted to. So I spent a year preparing for that. But I wasn't just going to go and climb it with anyone. I wanted to go and solo it. And I'm sure some of you have seen Free Solo, the Alex Honnold film.
Yep.
Where he climbs without a rope. I'm not quite as good as him. So I decided to climb it with the rope, but on my own, which is an incredibly boring and slow process. So I won't spare with the details, but basically I spent 6 days on the rock face. So I think it took Alex less time to climb the whole face, the whole 1,000 meters, than it took me to climb the first of 16 pitches, is how slow and boring it is. So yeah, it's but
Steve, can I just touch on that? And just, you're mentioning a bit of a phenomenal character there in Alex Honnold. You've climbed El Cap. For what he did, what is your impression, or what is your reaction to what he did without any ropes?
I guess if being a climber, like, he's been on the scene for a very long time, and what he's been doing is slowly been scaling up to taking on that challenge and building his skill set, building his confidence. I guess for a lot of people, I call him insane. But I think for those of you who watched that film, you can probably see he's the most sane person. The detail that he went into to climb that route is phenomenal. To know every single hold on that wall, to stretch his left hamstring out for a year to be able to do the hardest move on it, to make sure that he was going to nail it when he did it. The guy's remarkable, isn't he? There's no doubt about it. There's very few people on the planet, I think, that have, operate at that level. And you don't get medals for that. But hey, you can have a couple of my golds, mate. That's pretty impressive.
Well said. Well said. It's an incredible documentary if nobody's seen it. But keep going on your journey after El Cap and that incredible experience.
Yeah. So I guess the thing that changed me with El Cap was, what changed me was realizing my potential. And for many years and growing up, I was never that, like I said, I was never very good at anything. And I realized, actually, if I put my mind to something and focus on it 100% and really commit to it, you can achieve anything, which is which was amazing. So I guess I realized that if I took that model into my everyday life, that, hey, the world's your oyster. You can start planning and doing some incredible things. And so I came back from LCAP and started riding on the back of a tandem to pursue this dream of trying to become a Paralympian. And at the start, it wasn't even about winning a gold medal. For me, just to become a Paralympian at what I was going to be 38 was going to be a hell of an achievement. So I had 2.5 years of signing up with British Cycling to getting selected for the Rio Paralympic Games, and it was an incredibly amazing journey. That 2.5 years was incredibly challenging. I was learning every day, trying to become an athlete. I'd never been that before, and probably similar to what Steve reflected on earlier. It's like I remember the first time I got set power targets by my coach, and they're probably like 320 watts for not very long. Now I kind of laugh about that sort of thing, but I remember going back to him a day later and saying, I had 4 months to do this or I was going to get kicked off the program. And I remember going back to him the following day just saying, listen, I don't think I can do this. This is incredible. Like, it's a really high number compared to what I'm doing now. And the advice he gave me, he said, don't think about in 4 months' time having to do this power test. Think about tomorrow getting on your bike and giving me 100% in the session. And he just said, just you trust in the process, and I'll trust that you're going to give me 100%, and we'll hit this target. And I guess that just kind of set me up. Like, again, like Steve said, you can never look at the big picture. And certainly standing at the base of LCAP looking up, I couldn't even see the top. It was 1,000 meters above me, and all I could do was see the very small bit of my visual field in front of me. So hey, what can I do? All I can do is climb that. I've heard Mark say many times in the past, riding around the world, all you can do is ride the road in front of you. You can't think about over the next hill, over the next horizon. All you can do is ride the road in front of you. And so that's I guess that set me up pretty well. Obviously at that age, I had a lot of life experience. So, and this willingness, this desire to try and be the best, because it was the first opportunity I ever had in my life at being trying to be the best with all the support. And I think that was the biggest difference between climbing LCAP, which was all me. I came into the British cycling system, funded by UK Sport, incredible success. And all of a sudden you're just immersed around, all these Olympians, Paralympians. I remember the first time sitting in track center, and, there was Jason Kenny and Laura Trott at that point. And, I was riding with Jason Quealy as my pilot on the front of the tandem. I had to Google him. I didn't even know who he was, and I'm just sat there thinking, what am I doing here? I'm like this old bloke, around all these youngsters who are the best in the country at this. But, you take it day by day and, one step at a time. And getting that phone call for that selection for Rio was pretty special. It was right up into the wire. We hadn't really won anything big, Adam and I, my pilot. There was a lot of pressure on that to see if those, I say whether those 2.5 years were worth it, but of course they were. Even if I wasn't selected, it was still an incredible journey, and it's an incredible journey I've been on ever since. And like I'm sure Steve and yourself and everyone else who play sport at that level, I think it's less, for me anyway, it becomes less and less about what I've achieved and more about the people who I've achieved things with, or those teammates. And Steve reflected on that. When you catch up with people now, we're not talking about races. We're laughing about training camps and playing pranks on each other and all that stupid stuff you get up to behind the scenes that the media thankfully never sees.
Absolutely, and I can see Steve nodding. He's smiling away there. He totally agrees. It's interesting though, how you talk about the road in front of you. Yeah, because it just echoes what Steve was talking about, and you can only deal with what's in front. And when you had coaches around you that could get your mentality to switch when you thought, I can't do this. But they knew how to channel you and knew how to grasp and say, no, 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 just do this now. This is what I need from you. And tomorrow we'll look at that then. It's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's funny, I think when people look at you when you're a professional sportsman, you've won certain medals, world titles and Paralympic golds, or as Steve has Olympic golds and things. I mean, people think you're this you're kind of really different. And I mean, I can't speak for Steve, but certainly, I've had my doubts about performing. Generally not on the start line, thankfully. By the time we get there, it's always been, you're there to do a job, and it all kind of happens. You've done all the hard work, but the 9 to 5s, the Monday to Fridays, that sort of thing, getting up, doing it repetitively over and over and over again. It's everyone tells me I meet you who rides bikes and they're weekend warriors, or they love getting out. I've got the best job in the world, and I guess it looks like that because they only see the racing pictures in the sunshine, riding your bike in lovely weather. For the last pretty much 3 years, I've spent winters here in Yorkshire outside Manchester getting piss wet through constantly, and it's those days where when at the weekend you've got the coach has got 6 or 7 hours in your training plan, and you look at the horizontal rain outside, and I've got the best job in the world on those days. It's it takes a lot to to drag yourself out into the pissing rain and come back home after 3 hours and get changed and get on your bike and go back out again. And it's a different mindset, but I guess when you want to be good at your job and you want to be the best in the world, you're willing to kind of go through that process, aren't you? Make those choices.
How did you adjust from your body, your mindset? As you said, you had a lot of life experiences, and then you were sort of mid-30s before you became an Olympic athlete. How did you adjust everything in your world, from diet to training to disciplines, mindset to get to where you needed to be at the start line?
Yeah, I guess I was pretty fortunate. Like as a climber, I was in the hills a lot, so I was climbing fit. I wasn't cycling fit, but I was all right. And to be honest, the first 2 years, I kind of got left alone by a lot of people just because it was pretty clear the way for me to develop and get better was just to ride my bike. So let's not get into too much detail about what diet you're eating. Let's not get too carried away with like power testing and VO2 max and all that sort of stuff. Like, I'm probably one of the few athletes that have been on a Paralympic start line who's never done a ramp test, never done a VO2 max test, never done a FTP test, a 20-minute FTP test, because all I had to do was spend hours riding my bike and get really fit. And that, those tests, although, they definitely have their place, we knew if I was riding my bike and invested 100% every day, I was going to get better. And we didn't need tests to show that was happening, because you could see that in, the distance I was riding, the speed I started to ride at, the power numbers started to grow. Everything was full on. But I think in terms of mindset, I don't think without that solo experience on LCAP, I probably ever would have got to the games. I think overcoming the mental challenges of that, 6 days on your own on a rock face, making every decision that is really critical to kind of A, getting to the top, and B, surviving, not making a mistake because it's probably going to be your last one you make. I think when you have that sort of experience behind you, the riding a bike seems quite mundane to that, if I'm honest. It's one of those things when you're rock climbing, if you make a mistake, you forget to time, whatever, you're going to die. Getting to the start line of a Paralympic final in the Pursuit, our first race, and everyone said, "Oh God, you must have been so nervous." And to be honest, I walked up there thinking, well, if this goes wrong, I ain't going to die. So, it was kind of a, in the worst cases in that situation, you're in the final of a Pursuit, the worst case scenario is you're going to win a silver medal, you know, so it's not all bad, but yeah, thankfully we held it together and did the business. But yeah, I think the mental side of things, I think, is massively overlooked, and Steve certainly, you know, I listened to Steve spoke about it earlier. You know, we've heard from Mark before in the past about getting up and repeating this day 78 times. You know, it's, yeah, your body can do a lot of amazing things, but your mind's the first thing that's going to stop you from doing those things. So, you know, being positive, having that mindset of, you know what, you know, I think it stems with not being scared of failing, you know, having a really open kind of mind and wanting to learn about yourself and your craft and getting better and you know, not being afraid on some days to go, you know what, I don't have it today, and that's okay. You know, tomorrow you start again and go after it again. So yeah, it's just, I guess, that constant mindset, isn't it, of keeping on top of yourself and riding the highs, but also riding the lows, because they're going to come one after the other. That's a given.
Absolutely. Steve, I've still got you here pinned on the conversation. I see you nodding a lot. There's obviously a lot of similarities there with the mindset of the start line. You do all the work prior and you know how confident you go into the start line. It's fantastic to have you both echoing mindsets, you know, and echoing preparation of what it takes to achieve the Olympic goals. Steve, are you okay still with us? Because I don't want you to go and disappear at some point without me thanking you again for coming on. So do just shout me down when you have to
sure.
go.
No, I just jumping in there with what Steve said.
Hold on.
Music.
Who is that? Who is playing the Proclaimers?
Evolution Fitness Studios, your hero.
The fitness studio, Evolution Fitness Studio.
So I agree totally with Steve. It's about how you push yourself each day that determines on that person. I used to get very nervous at races, but everyone's different. And Steve talks about the positive side of it. I rode with somebody that is extremely negative, James Cracknell, and he was able to get the best out of himself. So it's horses for courses. It's what works for you to get you to that end goal. And Steve said that at 38, going to his first Paralympics, that's when I was that age, was when I was hanging my oar up. So it makes me feel very old.
Yeah, stupidly, I'm still at it, mate.
I wish I could be.
Yeah. What's the thing you think, Steve, that you miss the most about like competing at that elite level? Is there one thing in particular you just think if you could just keep that for the rest of your life, that feeling, what would that be?
Is even though we used to do a lot of training, is days or sessions that went really well were very far between. One of my friends that spoke at a rowing club dinner, one of the guys came up to him, very much lower level, and said to him, God, just to move the boat as well as you do, just must be amazing. And actually his response was, the fact is that we don't get very many of those days. It's what we're looking for and striving for all the time. So it doesn't matter what level you are, you're still striving for the same thing. So it's getting the best out of yourselves to give you your opportunity to do what you want to do within the discipline, within sport, or within life.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that's always massively overlooked by lots of people, kind of outside that kind of bubble, I think, if you like, of the fact that you get on your bike and just ride fast every day. It's funny, it's interesting when people say you're really successful, and certainly for myself and my very short career, and they say sort of, oh, you know, like you must get asked this a load as well, Steve, where it's like, what's the secret? And I always say it's just winning when it matters. That's the secret. You know, the media aren't there week in, week out when you're training and failing at sessions. You're vomiting off the side of your bike. You're an absolute, you know, wreck of a person. It's winning on the biggest stages when people remember it. That's what matters.
Right. We train as hard as we do to make sure that we get it right on the right day. the days in between don't really count. Just adding a bit to what you were saying about testing, is that testing is really a source of motivation in some ways to see where you are and where you're going on the journey. But what I found a lot at the beginning of my international career is that I was sort of setting records that hadn't been seen before. And so I wasn't getting any benefit from it, but the team behind that were filling their databases up. So what we're doing is helping the next generation to learn from the figures that they have to beat us, which they're doing quite well.
Steve, will you tell us, I see obviously the tattoos on your body, but your Kiwi heritage. Will you tell us about the heritage originating in New Zealand? And I've obviously seen the back tattoo that you've got and things like that. What's the story behind some of your tattoos?
I guess I've always enjoyed kind of I guess opportunities to learn about myself, I suppose, as one way of putting it. So, you know, whether that's climbing elk up or riding a bike or, you know, taking on other stupid challenges. But I think getting tattooed was kind of it was just a process. So I'm tattooed from like the bottom of both knees and goes completely all the way up my back and around my front. So it's kind of like Pacific Island tribal shorts. And they are really battered into natives as a pathway becoming a boy to a man, I guess, traditionally. You know, when you wanted to step up and be a man in the tribe and go out as a hunter-gatherer instead of being a boy, this is one of the options or one of the processes that you went through to test your strength and spirit and what have you. And I guess I kind of really like the idea of that. I like the idea of seeing, you know, that was really all about mind control. You know, when you sat in a tattoo chair for 7 hours, it gets pretty sore, obviously. I don't care what anyone says, they all hurt. And yeah, it was just going through a process, and you're always, you know, I'm always interested to learn about who I am as a person, how I react to things, and try and think about how I can be better. And I guess the tattoos are just a pretty extreme way of going through another learning process and trying to understand who I am as a person and what you know, kind of what makes me tick, really.
And are you finished now, or is there more work to do?
I don't really, to be honest, I don't really see it as something that I've got planned out. I mean, I came back from Tokyo and just had my left sleeve finished, and that wasn't really in the planning for a long period of time. I think I get inspired by certain things and think, oh yeah, that would be good. I need to go and have that experience again. So yeah, who knows, mate? Who knows? But I've got to be honest, I am running out of skin.
You're running out of space. Mark was telling me, have you recently been up in the Cairngorms and taken on challenges? What have you been doing of late?
Oh, so yeah, I've just on the 2nd of Jan, I've ridden the Badger Divide, which is an off-road route from Inverness to Glasgow. So it's predominantly a gravel route that people ride in summer. And as far as I know, no one had ridden it in kind of winter conditions, in classic Scottish winter conditions. So again, it's a little fascination I have with learning about myself. And, you know, I'd had, when I came back from the games in September, I'd had hip surgery. So I had pretty much 3.5 months completely off my bike. I actually caught up with Mark and stayed with him in Edinburgh about, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks after I'd had the surgery, I think. I can't really remember. Just kind of hobbling around and stuff. So I put on a great deal of weight and enjoyed my time away, and not having to ride the bike every day. But, you know, I always knew coming into the new year it was, you know, gonna get back. Tokyo didn't quite go to plan for us, so I think if we would have won another gold medal at Tokyo, I could have probably put that Paralympic side of me to bed. But there's a bit of unfinished business there, so I think I I think I've got to go back to Paris and kind of complete that journey for myself. How that looks, or even if I'll get there, I have no idea. I guess at that point I'll be 47, so it's a pretty big ask. But take it day by day, like Steve said, and get through one session at a time and see how it goes. But yeah, the Badger Dubai was ready to kickstart that and get back on my bike and enjoy, like I've always enjoyed journeying, riding distances on my bike and certainly challenging conditions. We had some great weather, some great snow. We're kind of riding for 9 or 10 hours a day, most of it in the darkness, which obviously with my eyesight I'm not very good at. But it was an incredibly fulfilling journey.
And touching there on your eyesight, did you say earlier on that it's still you're losing it gradually? Still, is that the case?
Yeah, so it's a degenerative disease, so there's no cure for it at the moment. So it's just kind of taking it as it comes, and it kind of goes and fits and starts or plateaus and dips. So I've been pretty fortunate. When I was first diagnosed, they said the worst case scenario
Just,
was
logging into my .ea thing.
nice one, Ian. The worst case scenario is I'll be blind in 4 years. So I guess that there was kind of a bit of a driver to go and get some stuff done. But yeah, that's that was 10 years ago now, and I can still ride on the road if I'm careful on my solo bike and still do most things. Probably just a bit slower than I'd like to.
So sorry, they predicted you would lose your sight in 4 years, or they think from now?
No, so that was the worst case scenario when I was diagnosed.
Right, okay. So,
yeah. Okay. So they can't, because it's such an individual thing.
Yeah.
They can't, rightly so, they don't really like to say, you're going to go blind or you're not. And, it could be next year I could be blind. It could be I never quite lose all of my sight, Mm-hmm. Fingers crossed, mate. That's the way it pans out. But it's just rolling with the punches and making the most of the time we've got, right?
Absolutely. And I can tell by your energy and the way your outlook is, you're going to keep going and keep smashing things. But I think this is a good time to try and bring Mark back in. I'm sure he wants a quick catch up with you. I'll just pin him to the conversation. Here he is. Hi, Mark.
Hey. Yeah, never get bored of Steve's story. And I'd say before World in a Day became a Doddy Aid event, we ran it 4 times at the start of 2020, and it was Steve and I that really ran that together. There was no Nashi to host it back then, so we were doing the comparing as well. And his energy never dips. He was the driving force on the microphone. And it was interesting, even on that Badger Divide ride at the start of the year. I think he sent me a message 50 kilometres from Glasgow in the dark, in the ice. And it was just miserable and just saying, what am I doing out here? This is wild. But even in the WhatsApp message, you could tell there was like a wry smile and a real pleasure in the suffering. And I can really affiliate with that, that sense of, you're massively testing yourself, but in a weird way, you're finding pleasure from that, because life, if you don't go looking for it, is wonderfully comfortable. And being wonderfully comfortable makes us really bored and depressed unless we have something to strive for, something to struggle for. And I really appreciate when people like Steve do difficult things and they go, oh, I'm in a horrible place, but they're kind of saying it with a bit of fire in the belly and a bit of a giggle as well. So it's interesting, isn't it? And it goes to the heart of when people ask me why. If somebody was to ask why you wanted to do this, yes, we all want to make a difference to the fundraising today, but you're not going to put yourself through 240 miles unless you also want to figure out something about yourself. Let's face it, it's not the most enjoyable way to spend a day, but we all want to have this memory, this, I can do that. And that struggle and that process is quite important. It's something about the heart of our DNA. And when people always say to me about the big expeditions, why? It's a bit glib, but you always say, well, if you've got to ask the question, you'll never understand the answer. And I think, you know, it's amazing hearing all the stories today, because at the heart of the why is ultimately a struggle, something which is difficult and you choose to do. You don't have to do it. So when you then reflect on people like Davey and Doddy and what real suffering is, you know, that's not something you can switch off. That's not something you can say, well, I'm not going to, it's not like being an athlete where you're hurting because you're trying to get better. You know, if you've got a disease like MND, that battle is a very different sort of battle. And, you know, the mindset around it is pretty incredible to see from people like Doddy and Davey, because, you know, as athletes, you can choose to put yourself through difficult stuff, but you can easily get off the bike. But when you're suffering in the sense of battling for your health and well-being, that's not something you can get off the bike for. That's not something you can choose not to do. And I can't, you know, I've never been in those shoes, but I think knowing what it's like to battle, knowing what it's like to struggle, at least gives you a little bit of appreciation in terms of what it takes to turn up every day. You know, what it takes to, it's a roller coaster. Not every day is going to be, you know, positive and brilliant, but just that attitude of turning up. How's Davey doing, by the way? I keep checking the screens and he looks to be going strong.
Davey, are you there? Shout out for Davey. He'll be going strong. Where is he?
I have to say, when Steve came and stayed shortly after his operation, got a wonderful photograph of the Olympic gold with my daughter Harriet. There's something about Olympic medals and children. I'm sure Steve Redgrave has seen this many times as well. There are very few things that make children light up like the sight and the idea of an Olympic gold. And it's just magnificent. You know, there's something magical about it. It's like the Harry Potter magic wand. An Olympic medal and a child, it just encapsulates sort of dreams. And they don't understand yet what that journey is or that process is. But I've never seen an object, you know, inspire a child quite as much as an Olympic medal is. It's wonderful to see.
It's something, Steve, yeah, I mean, I know you do a lot of corporate speaking and things like that, but how, like, I've done a little bit of that sort of stuff, but I'll tell you what, standing in front of a room of suits is far less appealing to me than going into a school and putting that, you know, those bag full of medals on the table. And as Mark said, you know, just hearing kids dream, watching them light up. It's a, have you ever got bored of that, mate? You've done it a lot longer than I have. What's that?
I've done a lot over the years. Is that I had to start doing it to start with, to bring in funds to be able to achieve what we're doing well before lottery funding. But I've done a hell of a lot of schools as well, especially on the build up to 2012, and it is amazing. If you could survive with just going around schools and motivating the next generation, that would be at the top of the pile. Unfortunately, is that lottery came in slightly too late for me. So we always had to find a mechanism of finding funds. And now of deciding not to go back to China, breaking my contract 2.5 years out, is that you have to find an income. It's a bit depressing, is that of what you've achieved in life, but you've still got to earn a living. And I'm officially unemployed at the moment. So I'm looking for the next thing. So to combine of bringing in an income and also of motivating the next generation. So I've done that with schools, I've done it with young athletes, and I've done it with businesses. And you can link into all of it to make a difference in all their lives.
Absolutely, yeah. What's the one question at speaking that you you hate you just sort of hate's a strong word, dislike the most, Steve? There must be one question you get asked over and over again where you're just like you almost have a laugh in your head about it.
Steve, I've probably asked it. Here we go.
Is that Q&A is always the easiest of format. Coming in with a presentation and doing something is something quite difficult. I remember on the build-up of 2012 of being at a primary school in Yorkshire, and the teacher said, "Don't get them to ask questions because they won't ask any questions." Of course, I asked them questions, and you do get the sort of the ones of, "Oh, what's your favourite colour?" But you get some really interesting ones as well from sort of the 5 to 7-year-olds of their outlook. This was in Harrogate, and so that a very famous cycler from that neck of the woods. They were very much into her and what she's achieved and done projects on her. But they were just totally into what the Olympics was. So, but what you talk about the medal, it's big and it's shiny, so it engages anybody. It doesn't have to be kids; it's adults as well. But you go into a classroom and you pick that medal up and sort of wing it around in their eyes, sort of follow it. That is magical. But it's also the brand of the Olympics, and to degree now the Paralympics as well, is that everybody in the world, almost everybody in the world, whatever country you come from, have heard about the Olympics. In other sports, that's not the case. It's that combination of bringing those sports together that's bigger than any one entity for it, and it's magical to be part of and be able to pass that on.
Yeah, certainly is. It's incredible. I'm not sure what it's been like in your career with kind of in the village with food halls, but I always reflect on like the Paralympic village, and certainly in Rio. Tokyo was a bit different because we were separated from the venue was not in Tokyo itself for the cycling, but in Rio you've got, when we talk about a food hall, I guess to put some context, this is like an airplane hangar. It can feed 5,000 people at once. So this is a massive thing. And in the Paralympics, obviously, you've got all these athletes from across the world, pretty much every disability on show, eating, right? And as you can imagine, this is one of the things that we talk about a lot behind the scenes, is how hilarious it is watching disabled people eat. Right, and I can say that because I'm disabled and I miss my mouth a lot. But when you've got people eating with no arms, you've got guys who weightlift who are surrounded by like 7 chickens that are getting through. It's just, the first time I sat in the food hall in Rio, I think he's Iranian, the sitting volleyball player walked in, who's the second tallest man in the world. Right, I think he's just over 8 foot, might be 8'4" or something like that. The guy is like, he's a mountain, but he walked in and literally held the doorway in front of him like this and had to duck under it to get into the food hall. But he walked in talking to one of his teammates who was a dwarf, who didn't even come up to his knees, right? And now they walked into the food hall having this conversation. And you can't help but be amazed by what you see around you, and just people going on with their lives like it's absolutely normal for them. And it's one of the coolest things, being sat in that food hall and just people watching. It's it's an absolutely amazing experience. I'm not sure if you have that sort of experience at the Olympics, Steve. I'm not really sure. You guys are probably too busy, right, getting the calories down and getting back out training, I suppose.
No, it's exactly the same, but on a bigger scale because there's more athletes.
Yeah.
15,000 people in a village. It's almost a town, not a village. And it is a bit of a freak show of every sport has its makeup. And as somebody, I'm 6'4", when I was racing 104 kilos, people think I'm quite big. And comparison to other sports is that's not big at all. But then you've got your gymnasts that come in as well, and they're the complete opposite of absolutely tiny, of picking up their little bits of salads. And because we do even later stages of our wind down, still doing a reasonable amount of work, we can still eat pretty well. One of the messages that we put through from the generations is that how easy it is to overeat in the Olympics. We all do our individual athletes and of sport, and World Championships is the pinnacle with it in mind, second down from the Olympics. But you tend to stay in a hotel and you have set meal times, and you don't really have too much of a choice of what you eat. The team nutritionists have designed of that the Olympics. It's amazing. You've got almost every culture's food there. You can experiment, but so not in Tokyo because of COVID, that we're all sitting on tables with perspex around us in individual booths. But that was one of the joys of being able to mix with other athletes from other sports. But you do tend to sit in the eating halls quite often, and it's quite easy to overeat. That's one of the messages that we put through. Another story of diet and eating halls, going back to Barcelona, it was when Magnum ice creams came out, and Magnums were put into great big freezers in the eating halls, and of course they just disappeared like nobody's business. And we had a separate rowing village up at Banyoles, so about an hour and a half drive north of Barcelona itself. And there was, they said that there was 8 Magnums being eaten by each individual every day. Now, I know people that weren't eating any of them. So someone was tucking them away, or something was happening to them. So there are trends on that sort of side as well. But it is something that you have to be really careful of. Athletes tend to be competitors of whatever they're doing. And so in Atlanta is that the complex where we were living was about 10 minutes walk away from the dining hall, and then behind the dining hall is the transport system. So you've got to walk past the dining hall a lot, coming in and out of the village. And there was a little tram system. It was like of golf carts tied to each other that would do this one-way system. And that you would jump on, get to the corner before it turns off and does a loop, and then jump off to get back to your block. And your challenge is to get back before the trolley system has got round to what would be your drop-off point, which seems a lot of fun and sort of deals with the competitive instinct. And then you get back to your apartment, you get into your room, which is quite a small box, whitewashed walls. And then you're sitting there thinking, why did I rush back to my room? Just got to sit there, now getting nervous about what we've got to do later in the day or tomorrow. So there's all those sort of things. Just the scale of the game is just so different to of what we do on our build-up. Commonwealth Games, I've competed once at the Commonwealth Games, but it's on a lower scale and lower volume of that. So they're good stepping stones to learn of what the Olympics is like for athletes. British Olympic Association have done many surveys, and one of them is that the athletes perform better at their second games than the first games. So what we've tried to do in recent years is try to prepare the young athletes, is that they're like experienced, so they know what all the experiences are like of the village. There's always something that throws a new one into the process, but it's about of guiding the athletes through that process. And sitting around eating cookies and coffee all day in the dining hall probably isn't the best preparation for Olympic Games.
You hang out with cyclists far too much, Steve, by the sounds of it.
If I can jump in, there's a man that has just joined our conversation and joined the Zoom that can also probably give us some stories of Olympic food halls. Sir Chris Hoy, welcome to our Zoom ride. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. How are you? Oh, he's on mute. He's on mute. Have we got?
Yeah, there's always one. There's always one that's on mute, isn't there?
How are you?
How are
Thank
you?
you for joining us. We're
Yeah,
good.
good.
We're good. We're good. Thank you.
Apologies
We're just
for that.
talking. The subject for discussion at the moment is Olympic food halls.
Yes, my favourite subject. Yeah, that was one of the best things about getting to the Olympic Games. It's the food hall. Yeah. If you spend too long there, though, by the end of the games, you're usually in a different degree. But yeah, great fun.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Steve Bate, I'm going to let you go just now.
Yeah, right on.
No, thank you very much. I hope you can stick around. And so, Steve Redgrave, are you?
I'm off. I've done 2 hours on my bike. That's enough for me. Approaching my 60th birthday.
We'll call it 2 hours and 1, just like Catherine said that you were going to do
Definitely.
1 minute more than her. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Nice talking to you, Steve.
Great chatting to you all, and the ones that are carrying on doing the proper task of digging, keep going, small chunks, you'll get there in the end. And what a fantastic job you're doing. The money being raised is amazing. Well done, everybody.
Thank you so much. Take care. Thank you for joining us.
Nashi, just before you jump in and start hitting Chris up about his incredible career, can I just jump in there, Chris, and say, can you talk to me a bit about barbecuing, mate? Because
I was going to get there
now. And you're a bit of a barbecue wizard, mate. I'm waiting for the invite.
Oh, I love it. I love barbecue. It's one of these things. I did it before lockdown, but lockdown gave me the opportunity to really indulge my my passion. Yeah, doing long, low, slow cook. You know, big slab on me, and yeah, absolutely love it.
Have you had any vegan haters giving you a bit of grief?
No, I think the most misery I've put myself through is just the dry January. So I thought January would be a bit too far, but yeah, I mean, most of the meat or all the meat I get really is locally sourced. It's good quality. I very much go for quality over quantity. I think, you know, if you can do your bit in that way, that's something. But yeah, certainly not had a veganuary this year.
Good lad. Anyway, mate, I'll let you crack on. It's good to catch up with you, Chris. Have a great ride, mate. Speak to you soon.
Chris. Hi, Chris. I'll be bringing Rob Wainwright into the conversation later on, because right when we started this about 6 o'clock this morning and I was going through the running list of the day, he said that your Zwift rides are incredible. The way you bring people together is fantastic, but you're getting quite competitive. That just towards the end, that you'll maybe just see you putting the foot down, up in the pace. You still got that edge. You still got to let people know that you're there.
Oh, no, none of that. It's you know, it's all lies. It's funny. It's just a lot of it just comes out. So the Sunday rides are 50k, and they're pretty steady. And there's a pace, well, hopefully, pace for everybody. And yeah, it's Wednesday evening rides are 25k, bit shorter, a bit sharper. You know, get in, get out, get the job done. And yeah, I think last ended up being a little of a race towards the end, and it was with OJ Borg, and we had a little sprint at the end. And yeah, the old every now and again the competitive side gets out the cage a little bit, and a little sprint. All good fun, and I think as long as we're getting as many people enjoying the ride as possible, and they're having fun, and the pace isn't too fast or too slow. We've had Louise Minchin and Laura Winter doing a lot of the speed thing at the back, doing a fantastic job keeping people company, keeping morale up, and it's been really good, really good so far.
But everything you've done, and it's and my thanks come from the whole organisation and everyone that's involved. What you've done so far for Doddy Aid and joining us today, a big thank you, because it's been great, and the profile that you've given the charity and everything for Doddy has been incredible. So thank you for all your efforts so far.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, nobody can do enough. We all want to do more, because Doddy he's just this legend of sport, not just rugby, but of sport, and everybody can to incredible amount of love and support around the world for him and for this amazing cause.
Absolutely. Now, if we get into just a bit of a conversation about you and make this next wee bit about everything that you've achieved. When I was there's not much research I have to do because I've followed your career forever. Okay, and I'm a fellow Watsonian and left in 2002, so been sort of watching on. But if you go to Wikipedia, the first thing it mentions is that you're a racing car driver. So this life after the Olympics.
Yeah, I'm not sure who changed that, but yeah.
Well, that's what it says. But take us there. Take us to you achieved so much in the Olympics and everything that you did, but to move into such a high-paced sport after what you achieved, where did that eagerness to get into motorsport come from?
It was just, I loved it. I loved it. I was a big fan of Colin McRae, and he was my kind of motorsport hero. I got asked to do a documentary about his life. BBC were doing a series of racing legends documentaries, one on Sterling Moss, one on Jackie Stewart, and Colin McRae. And obviously, Colin sadly isn't around to tell his own story, so they asked me to be the presenter for that show. And it was through the making of that TV program I got the opportunity to start racing. And I used to do track days at the end of each cycling season just for fun, but never ever thought I would get the chance to start competing and racing on the track. And but yeah, it came along the opportunity of racing. Nissan came and got in touch, and they were asking if I could help out with some mentoring for the Rio Olympics. They were an Olympic partner, and they said, we can maybe get you some opportunities to race our cars as well. And Nissan, they said, well, we reckon we could get you to Le Mans in the next 3 years to do the 24-hour race. And that was like one of my dreams that outside of cycling was to race at the 24 hours of Le Mans. Never thought it would happen. I worked pretty hard at it. A lot of people helped me along the way, and I got there in 2016, and it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life. Quite being there on the back, racing alongside some of your heroes from Formula One and endurance racing, going wheel to wheel against these guys. It was amazing. Yeah, it's just a hobby. It's just something I absolutely love doing, and it's kind of grown legs.
It's famously known, obviously, that when you retired from the Olympic lifestyle, that your training didn't stop. You're still in extremely good condition. But what's training like and lifestyle like to be a racing car driver, to keep that sort of fitness? How have you had to diversify your life and everything?
It's not the fitness that you need to be, unless you're competing in a very high downforce, like a Formula One single seater type race. And for Le Mans, the downforce is considerable, but it's as long as you're physically fit, you're okay. You don't need to do a huge amount. It's not like I think having come off the back of a physical sport career, it wasn't a change in terms of training. In fact, it was a lot less physical training. But what I found exhausting and fatiguing, it wasn't the physical side of driving the car, it was the mental side. So you could be doing a 2.5, 3 hours in the dark, in the rain, hitting speeds up to 200 miles an hour on the Mulsanne Straight with cars in different categories, different speeds. You've got to make your way through traffic. You've got to watch out for the faster category coming up behind you. At the end of it, you're emotionally and sort of mentally drained. It's unbelievable how tired you are from concentrating so hard. And the professionals have been doing it since they were 5 or 6 years of age in karting and through the ranks. It's second nature to them. So they don't have to use the same capacity of brain power. For me, I'm using every last neuron to try and concentrate on not crashing the car. And that's what makes it so it is incredibly fatiguing. You get out the car at the end of the stint, and it's hard to wind down because you're full of adrenaline, and you've got maybe 2 or 3 hours in the car, or maybe 4 hours till you're back in the car. But it takes you an hour and a half just to calm down, and then you've got to try and get some rest, and then you've got to be ready at least an hour before you're back in the car. So I didn't actually get any sleep until about 3 a.m, and then only for about half an hour. So I've been up for over 20 hours by that point. And it was mentally, physically, emotionally, everything. It was challenging on every level.
What are the comparables like on the start line of, say, a Le Mans or in the race car compared to Olympic final? What's the mindset? What's going on?
Well, the famous sort of quote in motorsport is you can't win it on the front, but you can lose it. So it's kind of sit in a keirin final or a sprint final. It's that you have one chance. It's a split second thing. It's everything in that moment. Whereas in an endurance race, a 24-hour race, you still have to be absolutely on it. You've got to be completely committed. You've got to nail the braking points. You've got to nail the apexes, throttle application. You've got to be thinking about all these different factors, communicating to the engineers and the radio. It's just, there's so much going on. And as I said before, it kind of uses up all your brain power, just trying to keep the car on track. But on an Olympic final lining up there, everything is distilled down into this one moment, and you know that this moment will define your career. So you want to get it right, but I think you've got more control what happens in cycling as well. Motorsport, there's so many other factors out with your control. You've got to have a car that works, doesn't break down. You have two other teammates that you're racing alongside. Sort of relay. So you're relying on every single part of the jigsaw working, whereas in a keirin, it's as long as your bike doesn't break, it's kind of down to you.
Yeah, a lot of factors, I suppose, more factors to consider when you're in the race car. With the team sizes, what's the race car team, sort of the size that you work with there compared to what the Olympic team was like? Are you mixing with the same sort of numbers, or is there more things to control?
Yeah, now it's very much smaller level, much smaller size of teams, and the car can be run by 3 or 4 guys, but you could be at Le Mans, you could be, I guess, 30 people in each team. You've got 3 drivers, you've got engineers, you've got the data analysts, you've got the team chef, you've got the physio, you've got there's hundreds of people, even just the guys that transport all the stuff. I mean, there's so much kit. It's incredible. So you're a very small cog in a massive machine. So it's just, that's one of the best things about in motorsport, is being back in a team environment and working together towards a common goal. But yeah, there's nothing quite, as an amateur driver, there's nothing quite like the 24 Hours of Le Mans that's the pinnacle, because you get to race against the pros, you get to compete on that global stage. There's 300,000 fans come to watch the race. It's just, there's so much history behind the race and the event. So yeah, I'm a big fan of it, and to have been part of it was a real privilege.
The fact that you've got that it was a passion before you retired from the Olympic scene, do you think you would have found something else to get you to that racing level, something that would have really got your heart rate up and the tempo going if it hadn't been motor racing? I mean, can you see yourself not doing something high speed?
Do you know what? I just don't know. It wasn't I went out seeking something to replace cycling, and it didn't replace cycling, but I think what it was like a decompression from that Olympic environment and that training. And you've done one thing for so many years, focusing on one goal. If you suddenly stop, I think that you can have difficult things. So for me, it was nice to have something that wasn't all encompassing. I was aware of my limitations as a driver. I was never going to be the best in the world, but I loved it, and it was something to work towards. Show just the sensation of driving fast and sort of learning to control a big, scary, fast, powerful car, and to sort of get better at that and to improve your skills on that's really at the heart of it. That's why I do it. I would do it if there was nobody watching. If I was on my own on an empty track, I still drive around with a big smile on my face. But if you get to do it in front of lots of people, an exciting event, with other guys driving wheel to wheel, then that's all the better.
And do the kids, do they understand that you are a racing car driver?
Not really, sort of. Like they've been to a couple of events, but it's just so loud and noisy. It's not great for small kids. But Callum's sort of starting to get interested in cars. He's more interested in boats and trains and airplanes at the moment. But he's got a little electric car he mucks around on in the driveway. But yeah, I don't think they really know. I don't think I know what I do now these days. It's kind of, what does daddy do? I don't know. It's at the computer.
That's what's so interesting. When the day that he finds out that you are a racing car driver and you can maybe sit in the passenger seat, you're going to be the coolest dad ever. But the way you say that, and you don't know what you do these days, I want to get into the Flying Fergus and Be Amazing, the book that you've authored, because I'm a dad of 3 young children, and in those sorts of books, you're obviously looking to the future generations to try to give what you've achieved, to give your knowledge to the parents that are out there, but then also the children. So what you've achieved is possible for other kids. Tell us about the journey into sort of writing Flying Fergus and Be Amazing. What was that journey like to write a couple of books?
Fergus it was just a few ideas that I had, stories and the messages I wanted to get across to kids, but I didn't have a clue how to do it. You know, at that stage I wasn't, or Callum was only a baby, and the books are aimed at 5 to 8-year-olds, and yeah, it was just I had ideas, but I didn't know how to communicate them well. So it was like, well, I could try and do this on my own, but I'll probably make a complete hash of it. I found Joe Naden, who's a really accomplished kids and youth author, and said to her, like, I've got these ideas, you know, can you help me? So we sort of sat there, started the core ideas for Flying Fergus, who he was, what the themes were, what we're trying to create, and we wrote the first 2 books together, and then they were quite well received. So 2 more, and then another 2 more, and in the end, I think we did 12 in total, or 10 in total, which I can never ever imagine it would go that far. But it was well received. And then Be Amazing was something I wanted. It was really a kind of non-fiction book, basically just trying to help kids at the next stage, sort of 9 to 12-year-olds, just, you know, older kids becoming teenagers, the pressures in life, giving them the confidence and the belief that they can go out there and be the best they can be. And also just little nuggets of wisdom that either I've learned from other people or I've noticed in other people that have been successful in their careers, in fields. And yeah, just trying to help them through quite a tricky time, really, it's exciting, but it's also quite a tricky time when you're growing up.
Yeah, absolutely. What were you like at that age? Were you on a bike from the early ages? Did you know that bike was going to be something in your life?
Yeah, I was doing BMX, and I loved BMX. I was good at sport. I loved all kinds of sports. Wasn't great at it. The kind of kid that you would have picked out, you know, age 10 as a potential future Olympian or whatever. But I was always, you know, I'd make the team. I'd be thereabouts. I would win, you know, a race or come second or third. But I wasn't that kid that you thought, you know, he's destined for greatness, as there were in every team. There's always one player in every team or one guy each race you thought he's the one. And that wasn't me. So I guess what I learned was that if you focus on yourself and you don't worry about how far off you are from these people, but you can learn from them and you work hard, you keep plugging away, you will make improvements. But at the heart of it has to be enjoyment. You know, you have to love what you do. So it's about finding a passion and then having a goal and not limiting your goals, but not slave to the goal. Not, you know, a gold medal is what you're aiming for. But if you don't achieve that gold medal, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. But if you commit everything to it, if you put a setback, you tend to enjoy the whole journey and have a better time. And that's kind of what happened with me. But it took me I was 26 when I won my first world championship. So a long time. I was 28 when I became Olympic champion. So yeah, I wasn't one of these kids that just sort of, you know, overnight success and became a big hit.
And in that sort of into your mid to late 20s, did the life experiences that set you on a good path as you sort of attack those big events in your late 20s?
Sorry, I missed that question there.
Someone came in there. Apologies, I've just put them on mute. No, it's just with heading into your late 20s and the way that you achieved things and started to win the golds and the medals and things. Life experiences through your teens and mixing in teams and clubs, that obviously benefited you to get the end results of what we see today.
Yeah, I think I benefited from having a bit of a normal life before I got into Olympic sport. So I was, you know, there was no opportunity of becoming a professional cyclist when I was 18. There was no funding, there was nothing, there was no clear pathway. So it was kind of basically go out, get a degree, have a plan for what you're going to do, and cycling is your hobby. I was going to do it for a couple of years full time, see if I could make the Commonwealth game in 1998, in Kuala Lumpur. And then who knows, like Sydney was the pipe dream to make the team for Sydney. And there was this new event called the Team Sprint. I saw an opportunity there to do the first lap, maybe make that position, the team, my own, and then nobody else really specialised in it. So yeah, it was just making the best of what you've got, really, and the heart of it, enjoying it. Not every day was brilliant. You didn't wake up every morning feeling as if, it was another great day riding a bike on the track, but it was your hobby. It was to have the chance to basically have a career in what you love is an amazing thing. So I was grateful for that, and I just kept plugging away. And there were a few moments in my career that were the kind of eye opener. I've seen Jason really win Sydney Olympic gold in the kilo. That was a sort of significant moment for me. It made me realise that this could be possible. That there's a guy in your team who you train with day in, and it's just the impossible. He's become Olympic champion, and you now have a guy in your team to train with every day that is the benchmark. So you learn from him, you can measure yourself against him, and yeah, Jason was incredible to have the right place at the right time. If you have people around you that can support you, you need a bit of luck. It's not all just down to you to be in the right place at the right time and make the most of opportunities.
Did you take well to that when you started to win the golds, when there was maybe younger athletes coming in that you thought, I can really help these guys, but they're a threat at the same time? They're a threat to my position on the team. How are you? Obviously, we know you're famous for helping others and getting them to places and inspiring people, but when something became a bit threatening to you, what are you like? Does that focus you more?
It does, definitely. Without doubt, Jason Kenny helped me get the best out of myself in the last few years of my career, because he was this amazing young athlete on the team. Every day, you've got a battle to be the quickest.
Yeah.
And it's some of the best battles I've ever had in my career weren't in front of a crowd with TV cameras. It was just behind closed doors, training on a Tuesday afternoon. But what I always tried to remind myself of was the way that Jason Quealy, back in 2002, at the Commonwealth Games in Manchester, he was racing for England, I was racing for Scotland. And I 2 years before I decided I was going to train for this individual event, the kilo. We'd been teammates together in the team sprint, but I thought I want to try and learn from Jason and do the kilo. And he realized after years that I was going to potentially be a rival for him, and he still helped me. He still gave me guidance and advice, and he was like my training, basically his training partner, also a coach. And then it came to games where we were competing head to head, and he still helped me in the last couple of weeks adjust my taper, get my training just right, gave me confidence. And it's like this race in the game. It was incredible how much of a champion he really is, because it takes a big person to be able to do that. And then on the day, I beat him by a tenth of a second. Nothing in it really. Got the gold, got the silver, and he was the first guy to congratulate me, to come over, and I felt like it was sincere. I'm sure he was disappointed, but I think he felt proud that he'd helped me to achieve my dream at that point. So I always said to myself, if I'm ever in that position again, I really do want to try and be even slightly as good a man as Jason was with me. So yeah, that helped me to. You'd have to ask, if I did help Jason or not. But I always tried to use him to help me, but hopefully help. He was pushing me up, and I was hopefully dragging him up too. Because in the end, we knew we needed each other. We were racing against each other, but we're also teammates in the team sprint. And in the end, it worked out perfectly in London. We both got an individual gold medal and the gold medal together in the team sprint.
Absolutely. No, you definitely have benefit. He's done not too shabby himself. So, I mean,
he's not done too badly, has he?
Not too bad. So I think you both helped each other. Chris, your internet connection's dropping a little bit, but I got all that. And I think that the feed will be going out fine to everybody. Hoy Bikes, obviously, into the business world, entrepreneurship, whatever you want to call it. Is that something you always had your eye on when you saw the Olympic career going the right way and the way you could sort of, turn that brand into kids' bikes and everything? Because obviously the kids and bringing up the next generations is so important to you.
You look at the cycling market, the adult market is absolutely flooded, and so many brands out there. It's quite hard to buy a bad bike these days. But the components are really good, the materials are good, the knowledge is there. 30, 40 years ago, there were some rubbish bikes out in the market, but now there's really above a certain price point. So to create a new brand and to stand out and to have something different that's actually you're offering something new to a market isn't easy. That's why I think market, you have a chance to actually really help kids at that stage when they're just getting on the bikes, just learning, getting their confidence. If you're riding a big, heavy bike with components that don't that well, brakes, it doesn't give them the confidence. And there's so many heavy bikes out there for kids that look good, but are absolutely useless in terms of the geometry and the weight and the materials. So that was the main focus, making good quality bikes, making it easy for kids to learn, keeping it simple, educating the parents, helping them understand how to get them on balance bikes. Then on balance, making that transition onto a pedal bike. How do you do that? And it's not rocket science. Good quality materials, lightweight, easy to operate. Kids enjoy themselves, and then hopefully that makes them fall on riding a bike at a young age.
That's it. Now, obviously, with Callum and Chloe, you never want to sort of say what route you hope your kids are going to go down. But if there was a cyclist in the family, if there was a rugby player in the family, I know you're a big rugby fan, or a racing car driver, either of them, have you got choice? Have you got to think, what sports do you like to watch is where I'm trying to get to, away from sort of what you're in. What do you like to watch, and what great events have you been to?
Well, first of all, anything that they want to get into, it doesn't matter whether it's sport, music, art, academia, creating things, whatever. The thing is, I don't want one of those parents that's pushy and trying to get them to do what I like doing. Give them opportunities, give them a chance to try lots of things. When they find something they love doing and they really love it, give them the support to help achieve their dreams. And so whatever it is, it could be anything. I hope they're passionate about something. That's what I want, that they really enjoy it and they work hard and they experience as much as they can of life through whatever it is they choose to do. But if they chose cycling, or racing the car, it's one of the few things. It's a tough old sport. You could be incredible, but if you haven't got the budget, if you haven't got big sponsorship, big money behind you, and you want to become a Formula One driver, it's a really frustrating world. Most sports are a meritocracy that if you're good enough, then you have the opportunities. But motorsport, you've got to be good enough and you've got to have the backing. So yeah, it's a tough one. I think as a fan watching cycling, watching the track cycling Champions League series recently in London and Mallorca, and it reminded me how good the sport is as a fan. To stand there, sit there and watch it and see the best guys in the world back out. Such a great spectacle. It's a great sport. I love it. There's something about a velodrome too, with the atmosphere gets really focused in, all the noise, all the energy. It's amazing. But equally, yeah, rugby. That was my first dream, was to play for Scotland, to be Scotland captain at rugby. That was my dream when I was about 10 years old. So I think if they do anything, I'll be a proud dad. Yeah, proud dad anyway, obviously. But yeah, we'll see.
We'll see. Your career is so vast, so varied. Who knows what's around the corner for you? But you mentioned Scotland captain there. Let's bring one on. Rob Wainwright. Rob, are you there? Let's get some conversation from the main man, the man that put all this together. Here he is. I'll get him pinned.
I'm there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. What mileage are you at, Rob?
I'm 192 miles, and I'm getting help somewhere. A friend has turned up, as they do on Zwift. He's pinged into my side and has been leading me this last 20 miles. But I'm going through a wee bit of a dip, but chatting with Chris and yourself, I'm sure will lift me. So,
Yeah, absolutely. No, Rob, obviously, you've mentioned, and Chris was quite defensive about the competitiveness on Swift. Do you want to just add to the conversation?
well, he humped me last Wednesday. I couldn't make this Wednesday. It was the Wednesday before. He showed me how it was done. He did it to OJ the week before. But we also had quite a few nights on board, and Jason was there, and Chris was uncharacteristically. Should we have a race? Should we have a race? Because he was on Zwift, World of Zwift with OJ, and he got a great 3-letter reply, didn't he? From Jason, just said nah. Everything's all by text on these these rides.
You checking out.
Oh well, and I can't tell you what a thrill it is for us normal sort of mortal endurance boys to see you in your pomp going past. You did something on a hill, and on the second week, I think you got distracted and left behind, and then you put the gas on and went past people at such an unbelievable speed. It really impressed my son, and he's 27 and not very impressionable anymore.
It doesn't last long. That's long.
Well,
the trouble is, as a sprinter, you've got this short window where you can get a bit of power down, and then it's just drops off. So you've got to choose wise when you use a cartridge, when you're going to actually give it your all.
Yeah,
Chris, back in the day when you were say in camp going for the Olympics, what would be the ratio between strength work, squats in the gym to actually being on the bike?
He didn't do a massive amount in the gym, just 2 sessions a week, because a lot of the stuff you do on the bike is strength work by regular, normal exercise training. But on a bike, you're doing standing starts where you're producing huge amounts of torque. So really, you're doing gym on the bike. But in terms of actual squatting and gym work, twice, fairly low volume, but very high intensity, low reps, high weights, developing that strength. But you would structure your training program throughout the year, strength training, to come to a power interface for the last 4 or 5 weeks before competition. So you're doing not such heavy weights, but really fast. You're doing jumps and explosive movements with a slightly lighter weight, and the odd stuff, really heavy stuff too. But at the end of the day, you're a bike rider, not a weightlifter. So you get some guys who can lift huge weights, and they think, right, okay, I can do this cycling, Mark. And it's some guys who can lift. But there's a guy in the team once he was lifting over 300 kilos, and he wasn't that big, and it wasn't that heavy, but he couldn't kind of convert that strength into sustained power on the bike. And by sustained power, I mean over 15, 20 seconds. So he had a good spike of power, but couldn't hold on to it. And the other guys, Jason Kenny's not that strong by a sprinter, but as we know, he's got 7 Olympic gold medals. So it's not all about the strength. Ultimately, it's about how much power you can put out versus how small a hole you can punch in.
Yeah, absolutely. But even nowadays, you're still putting on Instagram. What are you squatting 200 these days? 200 kgs?
Yeah, I did. So last year during the pandemic, I thought I needed something, a little goal to kind of just have a bit of focus in each day. I'm not training a massive amount, but if you're doing, an hour a day or an hour in the gym, whatever, you want to have a purpose behind it. So I thought I'd see how close I could get to my all-time best single rep squat, which was 240 before London, and got up to 235. So I was only 5 kilos off my best. But when I was doing that, I wasn't doing the track work, the road work, everything else. It just shows you, if you focus in on one component of fitness, you can gains in the as soon as you do endurance work at the same time as strength work, both get compromised. So yeah, it was really interesting as a training exercise, but also just to see how, you know, we all know specificity is really important when you're looking to make gains in a particular sport or area of fitness.
And it's also just good to let folk know that you've still got it when you need it. You know, you still got that too. Still got that.
I don't know. It's a bit sad.
No, it's impressive. I know.
It's a bit tragic. It's a bit tragic that I'm a 45-year-old man. I should know better now. You know, it's yeah, it should be long past, but it's just nice to have a little bit of a dig every now and again.
Absolutely. I keep everyone in check. Well, Rob had his top off at 6 o'clock this morning. He just started and he was tops off, guns out. He doesn't care.
There's no guns anymore. It's been a little upper body. I've got the endurance cyclist upper body. But the good news is that you may think you're old for that, but at 56, I'm still doing stupid things. And I know that there's plenty ahead if my health allows it, because on most of the rides over the last month, we've had Roger Utley along. I think he's 73 and is still up in the front of the peloton.
Wow.
Still average sort of 270 watts. So there's hope for us.
Absolutely.
Cycling's so good because putting lots of stress into your joints. That's the reason why you get folks still doing it into their 70s and 80s. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Absolutely. And we'll bring Mark Beaumont in. I can see Mark's out his saddle at the moment. He's obviously on a climb. Here he is.
Hi, Nashi.
Hi, Mark. How you doing? How's everything going?
Doing great. Enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, no,
I've been loving some of the Sunday rides with Chris. It's been brilliant. That continuity, because so many of the Doddy miles people are doing on their own. So any excuse to get out and do miles together has been an absolute triumph. Team Edinburgh have had a few rides around Arthur's Seat, and the Zwift rides are great if people can't get to ride, you know, out on the roads together. So no, it's been much appreciated, Chris. Great fun.
Cheers.
From the
Great
jokes.
one. Thanks for having you along.
Apart from the jokes. We've had there've been some good ones. The herbivore joke, we like the herbivore joke. And the duck soul.
Yeah, that's not a bad one.
My favourite one was the duck. How do you know if a duck likes soul music? You put it in the oven until it's Bill with us. I like that one.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, when you become a dad, you've got the ability to tell jokes. Yeah, that's essentially all we do. We ride for an hour, we tell dad jokes, and then we shake folk down for 10 quid.
It's the genius model.
Chris, as rugby is obviously a passion of yours, the Six Nations is around the corner. Any thoughts or views on Scotland team? What's coming?
Oh, no idea. Absolutely no idea. They seem to be able to pull out the bag. Amazing performances when you least expect it, and then trip at the lowest hurdle when it, you know, when they're a shoe in to win. I mean, last year a real season, but they have the potential. Clearly, they've got some amazing players, and when they play as a team and they play to their full potential, they could beat anyone. But it seems like it's wide open this year. I mean, it feels like it has for a few years, but this year you wouldn't want to waste any money putting a bet on anyone, because all the teams could on their day, you know, beat anybody.
Chris, thank you.
Not that I know about rugby.
No, you do. I've seen you take the ball out. You've been in those changing rooms. You've been around the squad. But no, Chris, there's a message coming here. Mika, 11-year-old. He was with us on the ride last year. It says, "Thanks, Chris. Youngest is working. This is obviously Dad talking. My youngest is working through, being amazing each day and loving it. Mika, next to me here, has a 2-hour session at your track tomorrow, hoping to emulate you." Mika's a young lad. I think he's going to be putting in the full day.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see him. Rob, I'm just
fantastic. Where is it?
Hold on, I'm just going to try and unpin Rob. Get Rob out of there.
Talking helps.
Mika, is that you? Or you got them? Yeah. Hi. Can you see him, Chris?
With his dad.
Yeah, he's with
see,
dad.
hi,
He's
hi,
waving.
Mika. How you doing? How's it going? You look like you're working harder than I am. You're going faster, certainly.
Just past
You're
200.
tomorrow.
Yeah, just past 250 kilometers.
Chris, I'll tell you,
So
Mika's just passed 250 kilometers.
What? That's about what I do in a month. That's it. Well done.
Mika, I'll speak to Dad. Dear Dad,
Good lad.
I know Mika's got his head down. He's grafting. How's the year been since we met up last year? What sort of training's Mika been doing? How's it been going?
We moved down from Abbeymoor last year, so we've been able to enjoy the track. So that's been good. Micah got accredited far faster than I.
Okay, so
What's the age that the minimum age to get on the track at Glasgow? Do you know?
8.
8. I'll tell Kai 7. Rest of the year in training, get him on the rollers.
Is that Callum? So he's got a put him on. Sorry guys, we're picking up Mika. I'm going to put you onto silent just because we're picking up a bit of background. Thank you, Mika. Well done. Incredible effort.
Keep it going, Mika.
Keep it going. But Chris, that's the thing. They've moved. He's going to your track. He's put 250 in today. These kids are out there. The future is
amazing.
Out there. The future is amongst
amazing. Us. Well, you know, one of the things that really just gives me so much hope for cycling in the future, like when I was racing as a junior, road races or even track events as a junior or juvenile under 16, and you get the letter in the post midway through the week before the race saying we're really worried about the racing because not enough entries. And it was just, you had to go down to England, the main national events, to get any sort of racing. And the standard was so high, there's a big chasm between club level, you know, the one to race against versus the best in the country. But now, you know, I saw some of the shots from the National Cyclocross Championships national trophy. And in under 16s, I don't know how many were, it was like about 200 in the bunch. It was amazing. And it's just so good to see so many kids enjoying the racing, getting stuck in, having fun, trying different disciplines, riding with their friends. And yes, of course, we want to see champions in the future. That is important, but it's equally important to see folk out in the numbers, enjoying the sport and creating a future for the sport in this country. So yeah, it's good to see so many young kids with a real passion for it.
Here, and there's a couple of, speaking of kids in schools, there's a couple of shout outs I've seen and mentions for Watsonians.
Sorry? No, I'm good actually.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Rob Wainwright. Yeah, Chris, memories of Watsonians? Of Watson's, George Watson's College. What year were you? Were you in Jason White's year?
Above him, I think. I left in '94.
Okay, you're above. Yeah, good memories of school.
I think.
Good memories of school.
Really good memories. I've got, you know, life from school. They were, I think, a school that got the balance right between academic pursuits and sporting pursuits, but not just. It wasn't just rugby. You know, they let me do my cycling, give me if I had it was, you know, down on a Sunday, finishing late and getting back up to Edinburgh in time for the Monday morning. It was just, yeah, happy memories. And I remember as a 10-year-old in rugby, one afternoon, like a Thursday afternoon, Tuesday afternoon, normal practice session, and then out the changing rooms walks this 7-foot-tall Scotland rugby captain, is, well, actually 8-foot tall back then, that's what he looked like. This giant of a man, big Gav, turned up, said hello, gave us a few inspiring words, and it was just like jaw hitting the floor. Gavin Hayes is right in front of us. It was so, when you have somebody who was your hero and who was the captain of Scotland at that time, coming from the same school as you and saying, I used to practice on these benches, I never dreamt to become Scotland captain, but I am now. Maybe you could do it one day. It was just such a boost, and we all played that bit harder, put a bit more effort in for the rest of that week. And it was very lucky to go to school at that and to have people like Gavin who could come along and lend a hand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's still at the club most weekends as well. He puts his time in, gives back a lot to the club. Mark, anything else from you on Doddy Aid, the Zwifts, the fun that you've been having with Chris and all that sort of stuff?
So, I appreciate that today there's people on. I've no idea how many people are riding on Zwift at the same time with two screens. Some people, as we saw, are in gyms in Shetland Islands, in London. They're on pelotons, they're on watt bikes. So there are people going around the flatlands, Tempest flatlands in Watopia, and it is a great community, especially over the last couple of years as we've not been able to do as many group rides and club rides. But the event, as you know, is really this virtual peloton, and it's funny because we all appreciate getting out riding with our pals, but you could never have the conversations that we've had today. And when we're doing the Zwift rides with Chris each Sunday and on Wednesday, all the chat happens on the screen, so it's not like a verbal chat like this. And I'm really impressed with people who can multitask like that. They can ride a bike, sweat, and tap away on their phones at the same time. Chris has got an amazing ability to, crack out dad
negotiating
in 10 seconds whilst riding his bike fast. It's amazing. So this is so much easier, having a proper conversation, because we're all riding on a computer game here.
Chris, looking at Mark's achievements and being around the world, I think, Mark, many years ago when you were on my podcast, I think I asked you about, could you change your disciplines to the speed and the power on a track? What about the long distance, Chris? So a challenge of going around the world on a bike or something like that. How do you think you'd adapt?
I physically, I don't think I'm very suited to them. After kind of born sprinter, you have the genetics for the fast twitch. You can convert fast into slow, but it's more, of course, it's the physical ability, it's a physical challenge. But to me, it's the mental challenge of super endurance athletes who do ultra distance stuff. I just can't get my head around it at all. It is almost like just a sort of water torture. It seems like it is, where everything I used to do was about focusing and like a laser focus on one moment, and that was it. You had that split second decision, or longest race I had was a minute, and the concentration was just about this thing. You knew it was going to be over before you knew it. But to be going on, not just hour after hour, day after day, week after week, and not go through these dips, these phases of suffering mentally, suffering physically, everything about it. Yeah, it's so far off the other end of the spectrum for what I used to do. I couldn't imagine myself doing it, because I take my hat off to Mark and to all the guys that do these kind of things, because you just think, my God, it's not just the challenge, it's not just the record breaking or that event. It's the training that people don't realize goes on to every day of the year, because you can't just decide to go out and do a record breaking ultra distance event. You have to be doing the hours week in, week out for years to be ready for that kind of challenge. So it's definitely not my cup of tea. So I maximum respect to all these guys and girls.
I've often been asked that question, if you were to race Chris, what would the distance be? And there isn't a distance. I mean, apart from both riding bikes, there's nothing that compares what we do. There's no distance that would balance out my skill set as Chris's. And that put, I was 2014, off the back of, I took a bit of a career break as a bike rider in the build-up to the Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. And it was interviewing all the athletes that inspired me to get back to trying to ride ultra endurance. And my first challenge was carried to Cape Town, 10,000 kilometers length of Africa. And I thought, well, over the Scottish winter, how do I get an edge? How do I mix up my training and do something different? So I phoned up my friends through in Glasgow at the Scottish Development Squad, the young lads, and the coach there, and I said, look, can I jump on once a week with these 18 to 21, 22-year-olds who were all hoping to be the next Chris Hoy, and just do some track work. Thought it would really help my leg speed, bike handling. I just thought it'd be a good thing to throw in the mix once a week. And like we were saying earlier in the day, it's not till you go toe to toe. And so if you're a track endurance rider, the word endurance doesn't really correlate to what I do. And I turned up, and they're all sort of doing part-time jobs in Glasgow, basically having a student life existence, fueling their dream to become the next Olympians, buying bikes off Gumtree, and just putting their life and soul into being the best riders they can be. And I turned up, with a top track bike, Koga, that had been sent over to me, all the gear, no idea. Tried to hold on to the first training session, lost it on one of the corners, crashed. I was so embarrassed. I was just like, I've been given this opportunity to train with the up and coming stars of the Scotland squad, and I realised how far my world was from theirs. And it is horses for courses. I don't think they could do what I do, and I certainly couldn't do what they do. But for 5 months, I turned up once a week and I trained with them. I really, really learned a lot from them. I loved their discipline, but it made me appreciate just how different our worlds are, but also when you, as a bike rider, take yourself into a different discipline, how you then come back to the core of what you do, and you've really learned something. So, in the last couple of years, gravel racing, doing stupid stuff like racing penny farthings. And I always say to athletes, you start to get bored, or you start to get stuck in a rut, just do something different. Pick up a different bike, find some different bike riders that you respect and can push you, because testing yourself in a different way, when you then come back to doing the thing which you're a specialist at, you've got a fresh perspective on it, and a new set of skills. But I absolutely loved that 5-6 months with the Scottish Development Squad, and it just showed me how good they are. But the superpower that I think exists with ultra endurance athletes, apart from the mental side, is not your FTP or your top end sprint, your 6-second sprint. It's your ability not to injure. And I think that's often missed. It's just the sheer battle of attrition. I was joking before, GB Duro, which is a 2,000 kilometer gravel race, the length of the UK. 60 started last year, only 14 finished. It's the sheer attrition of it. And, the ability not to break, not down, not to get tendinitis, not to injure is about the conditioning on the bike. And I think a lot of people miss that because they just think it's about leg strength.
Mark, I'm listening to that. How many miles have you done so far?
I am on 330k.
330k, and you're just chatting away. You talk about endurance, talk about the ability to endure that you and I have sat on podcasts and discussed before. You're doing it as we watch you, as we listen. You're just pounding the legs. And
I was saying before, the first time we did World in a Day, we did it out on the road. We went from, the southern tip of Argyll down in Campbellstown to Aberdeen. And we had 80 riders. Everyone put $1,000 in the pot. So the idea was to raise 80 grand, get around the world. And if everyone made it across Scotland, we'd have gone around the world 18,000 miles. And it brought out a really powerful ethos in the group, because normally there's a bit of competition and who can go fastest. But because if we dropped anyone, if anyone didn't make it across Scotland, we wouldn't have gone around the world. it made this really powerful message that we had to support each other, you know, take along the weakest riders. We all had high points and low points. And there was that great camaraderie. But as we got into Aberdeen, and there was that sense with the peloton, 80 riders, they're like, thank God that's over, we've done it. And I slightly unkindly said to everyone, right, you get 5 hours sleep and you've got to do it again. The alarm goes off at 3:30, on the bike at 4, you've got to do it again. And you have to do that every single day for the next 2.5 months. And I think that's when the penny dropped for people, you know. This is hard, but you can push yourself and you can punish yourself in a day. But the superpower with ultra endurance is being able to wake up and do it again tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month. And as I say, being motivated by what you're doing and not the idea it's soon going to be over, because it ain't going to be over soon. When you're in the middle of Russia, when you're in the middle of the outback of Australia, when you're in the Gobi Desert, you can't be dreaming of the Guinness World Record sitting on your wall, because it's not even worth thinking about. Just ride the road in front of you.
Sorry, I've got a room full of kids here, and
That's great. You've got the class.
they're all roaming around. Abby's here. She doesn't want to say, "Oh, just give a wave." We've got Chris and we've got Mark. But Chris, we've got people saying you're more than welcome at Mireside anytime. What else?
Oh, that's very kind.
What else have we got? We need a commitment. Oh, we need a commitment for the 240 next year, Chris. Okay, I'll just pass that one, Stephen Robinson.
Yeah, the line's breaking up. I can't hear you, sorry.
You didn't get that one. But no, Chris, you've been with us an hour. We really appreciate it. By all means, hang around. But I know that I said to you probably an hour would be fantastic. It's so great to have had you on and to motivate all the riders. We've still got 76 on, still going for 240 miles, let alone all the people that are watching along across YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. It's been fantastic to have you on.
Listen, thank you so much. And I'm going to go and help Callum. He's going to go on his bike this afternoon. I promised him when the rain stopped, we'd go out for a quick spin. So
of course.
I'll off now. Keep going, everyone. Thank you so much for the support. You know, it's just a wonderful cause. And when you do get a bit sore, a bit struggling a bit before the end of this ride, just remember what we're doing it for. Keep it. And hope you see some of the real masochists. If you want to see me tomorrow at 10 o'clock in the morning for the Zwift ride, I promise to take it a little bit steady for you.
I don't believe you at all. Good on you. Thanks for joining us.
I'll be there. I'll see you.
Cheers, guys.
I think I might be a sweeper. Yeah.
Oh, nice one. Cheers, Rob.
Yeah.
Okay, what a legend. What a legend. What an afternoon we are having. That was fantastic. Mark, thank you for joining in with all those conversations. It's always so good to hear your comments when these different athletes compare to what you've done and what you've achieved. So it's brilliant to bring these conversations together. And like you say, it's not that common. Not that common to have all these conversations in one place. And you, Rob, Doddy, everything that's gone on has created this. But thank you for everything that you've done to bring this together.
I'd second that, Nash. It's an amazing supporter. Both he and Chris have been fantastic for Doddy. And but a lot of ordinary people, I'm on Zwift at the moment. I don't know how to do this on Zwift, but a whole load of my mates, Steve Romans, Jamie Smith, and Jim Ashworth have just come along to drag me along. So friends have appeared out of the ether to help me, draft me along, so which is extremely uplifting, and I pass my thanks to them. And they must show me how it's done. I don't know how to move around in the world of Zwift, but they clearly do. They've come and joined me, which has been very welcome.
That's the community. That's the people that are going to step up and get you all through this. Where's Davy Jiv? Is Davy still with us? Let's check in with Davy. Don't know if he's got his camera on. Or Davy. Is Mel still with us? I can see the picture. Mel, you still there? No, maybe off the bike at the moment.
Poor old Mel.
I am here.
We ask her.
Mel is here.
I'm just doing some admin,
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh no, how are you, Mel?
I'm good, thank you. I'm practically packed apart from my bike. So yeah, finish a bit of admin, then I'm going to jump back on the bike with you.
Ah, good on you. Yeah, so you're going to jump back on the bike, then you've got to dismantle the bike.
Yeah.
Is that right? And get it ready for tomorrow. How long does that take to dismantle the bike?
I don't know. I've never packed this bike before, so
Oh,
yeah. But I'm working my way up to it. I'm sure it's going to be a challenge, but be good once it's done.
Absolutely. Have you enjoyed? Have you been listening in? Have you enjoyed some of the conversations?
Yeah, you've been helping me finish my tax return.
Oh, you're leaving it late. Good on you. Good on you.
Really enjoyable, yeah. Whilst packing everything, getting everything done.
No, awesome. I'm just scrolling through. There's still some familiar faces. Who have we got? Oh, Caleb's back on. Caleb, you're back home. How was the rugby club?
It was good.
Yeah, was it busy?
Yeah, well, the under-18s won 38-0 against Stirling.
Excellent. That's a good result. And how many miles are you on? How many miles have you covered so far?
130.
130. Good on you. Good on you. What was that?
Well, Mum's saying that's because we've all got the four of us on the same bikes. That's why I'm a bit behind. So I did a wee bit of a road ride as well.
Don't worry. Don't worry. We know you'll get through the miles. We'll know you'll put the effort in. Good on you. I'm going to keep looking through people. Keep going, Caleb. Who have we got? I think, guys, if we look at the clock, I'm going to step away. Let's let you guys keep going for a little while. I'm going to go and just take 5 minutes. I'm going to go and see the kids. Keep going. We've got, what's next? 4:30, Jamie Ritchie and Hamish Watson. Then on to 5 p.m. Around 5 p.m. is going to be busy. We've got Hank from the GCN Network, Cycling Network coming on. He'll have a good catch up with Mark. We've got Dougie Vipond at 5 o'clock. 6 p.m. John Davidson. He's going to take us back to when he crossed the Atlantic in his solo row. 7 o'clock, we've got JJ Chalmers, and at 7:30, we've got Molly Hughes, who has been up and down Everest twice. So there's still tons to come. If you can bear with us a couple of minutes, I'll shoot away just now, and then we'll get ready for Hamish and Jamie, a little bit of rugby chat. Keep going, guys. To everybody that is with us across the live feeds, to everybody that is joining us on YouTube, Twitter, thank you for joining us throughout today. Please do, if you get a chance, pop over to Doddy Aid, share this, take pictures of screens, tag people, tag riders. Let's keep building this community, keep raising the awareness for Doddy Aid and what we're doing. But for now, guys, I'll be back in about 5 minutes. Keep going. Use this as a toilet stop because 4:30 into 5 o'clock, 6, 7, the guests are going to come thick and fast. Keep going, guys. See you in a minute.
This tune just came to me, and it was a tune of hope. It just had that uplifting quality that perhaps would be suitable for a tune named for the big man himself. His campaign to raise awareness of MND has just been inspirational. Doddy's Dream, the tune was composed on Hogmanay. I played it to a few people and they said, oh, I'd love to play on that. And it grew arms and legs so quickly, it was incredible. Everybody I asked just said yes, want to be involved in it. And basically I gave them the tune and said, guys, do what you want with it. So I think we have about 40 musicians. Everybody who's been involved with it has given their time for free. Every penny that has been raised by the track, if people are downloading it, goes straight to the foundation. The track is a celebration of how much has been done in the last few years by Doddy's Foundation. If this tune can do anything and to help raise more funds to get this big breakthrough that we need to try and find a cure for MND, that would just be absolutely wonderful.
Hello, everybody. How are we doing? Hope we are well rested as we head into the afternoon, the early evening session. For anyone watching at home, 6 p.m. is the next time, or 5:55. I should say, to be more accurate, is the next time that the live feed will go off, and it'll be back on at 6 p.m. So we've got a little while yet. 4:30, we are expecting Jamie Ritchie and Hamish Watson, so that we've more rugby chat. Six Nations and everything. Doddy A, they're both part of Team Edinburgh. Rob, is Rob on at the moment? We've got a good question about farming coming in from David S. Is Rob back with us? I think he's off just now, so I'll try and remember that question. Davy Jev, are you back on? Get a quick chat and catch up before we head into some more conversations. Davy, are you there? You there, Davy?
I'm here, Ashley. How you doing?
Hello. Hi, mate. How are you?
Good. Just hit 284k.
Good on you.
It's been a good afternoon. Love to chat with Chris and yourself.
It's been the fact that they've joined us, they've given us their time. It's been fantastic. So Steve Redgrave, everyone that's come on, obviously Chris Hoy, doing so much for the charity, the Zwift rides, everything that he does to raise awareness. It's been fantastic.
It's been I love the some of the stories about his social rides. I know there's a few professional cyclists, endurance cyclists on the Zoom today, but for those who haven't joined the social rides, they're social if you've got enough puff to concentrate on either typing or talking as you try and hold on to the group. They've been a lot of fun, but to have Chris always zooming through at 1,000 watts as he types away dad jokes in the feed has just been, it's an amazing thing to be part of. So I don't know if my backside will allow me to join tomorrow morning, but it'll be a great setup for those who can make it.
Absolutely. I do like that chat that Rob thinks he's getting a bit competitive and he's pulling away from the pack, and Chris is like, no. I'm just having a cycle. That's just my legs. No, I mean, it's great. And how is the body holding up? Okay, getting through the.
Yeah, no, good. I've been in the locker for a couple of hours, I'm honest. I had to get off for a stretch, bit of a lie down, refuel, a change. But I've taken on quite a bit of food, some water now, and I reckon I've got about 100k to go. So that's manageable psychologically. That's a good chunk. I'm on the downhill now, so to speak. So yeah, bring it on. Great day in the saddle so far.
Good on you, mate. Good on you. We'll keep going. We've got some rugby chat coming up. Lots of conversations to keep you hopefully distracted. So we'll hopefully be saying.
Picking up on what Davey's saying there, this is the point in the day that the discipline starts to go. Like, you don't want to eat, you don't want to drink. You've probably been really good in the first 6-8 hours in terms of hydrating and keeping on top of it. But at this point, you might think, I just don't want to. The body's hurting, and it's hard. But you just gotta keep fueling. So, in the next half hour to an hour, just prioritize that. I know what it's like. You go through such dips on a big ride like this, and this is the point in the day where your discipline starts to go, and you just think, I'll just cruise it to the finish. But your recovery, you'll be so much better tonight and tomorrow if you manage to keep fueling for the next few hours.
That's it. Strong advice from the main man, guys. So get your fuel in. Carl, I think Carl's still with us. I think, what did he say there? 200 miles in or 200k in, and he's dying. He's still here, Carl. Keep going, mate.
200 miles in, yeah, and pretty much dead, but I'll get the last 40. That's all right.
You'll get the last 40. Well done.
Good man, Carl.
You were there at 6 a.m. on the dot, or even before, warming up and doing your thing. Good on you.
I kind of needed it. I'm glad I did start that early. I got another good couple hours riding yet.
And where are you? Where's your setup?
Blairgowrie in Scotland.
Oh yeah, cool. Yep.
I am just in the main thoroughfare of the house, and I've got people coming in and well wishing and leaving and dropping in donations as they go.
It looks busy. That's what I was asking. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Well, my mum and dad were supposed to be taking the kids today, but they didn't. So yeah, I've just sent Lindsay up to the wee shoppy for Red Bull and a fudge donut because that's all I can face just now.
And is there a victory meal planned for later on tonight? Is there something that's on getting ordered or fried up? What's the chat for food later?
I think it's going to be Aelith for a jumbo haddock. Yeah, a jumbo haddock supper.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that are probably going to go for a fish and chips tonight.
Yeah.
Or something, get something, a big meal. Get a big
Well,
meal.
I don't know if I could, it'll be probably an hour or two after I finish before I can get a fish, I think.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But well done. Keep going. Get those 40 miles in. You'll be done in no time, and we've hopefully got enough conversations to get you through it.
Indeed. Cheers, buddy.
All right, mate. Take care.
Just before the guys jump on, I don't know if they're on the call already. Is there anyone else wanting to jump in and say where they are and how they're getting on? Because I do appreciate there's people probably suffering in silence at the moment. It'd be great to get a couple of comments.
Yeah, by all means, put it in the chat at the bottom if you want to come on, say hello. I can then unmute you and pin you if there's any chat. I can see Jamie. I think that's Jamie Ritchie just entered. And we'll see if Hamish also makes it.
Hey, Nashy.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Bear with me. Oh, there you are. There you are. I'm all good, mate.
I just jumped in the car. Been watching my little cousin playing lacrosse.
Lacrosse? Where's that? In Edinburgh?
Yeah, Fetties. Yeah, she's been playing at Fetties. She goes to Fetties, so she was playing today.
Good man. Well, here, thank you for joining us. We've got
no problem.
We've got 71 riders on just now. It's been fluctuating between sort of this and up to 100 throughout the day. Your main man, your captain, Davy Gibb, is on. Davy,
awesome. Hey, Davy.
You all right, Jamie? How are we?
Good, mate. How are you getting on?
All right, good. You're wearing a few more pieces of clothing since last time I saw you.
Yes, I am. Well, I couldn't be wearing much less.
Yeah. Now we're doing good. We're about 287k in, so on the home straight now.
Right.
Jamie, the effort from everyone's been incredible. They've been going through the miles. They've been going through the hard miles. You know, earlier in the day, there's a few people maybe got 200 miles in the bank with 40 to go, but fair play to everybody. It's been head down. Everyone's getting on with it. We've tried to keep the conversations going. So hence why you're here. Thank you very much. To try and give a bit of distraction. And hopefully Hamish is going to join us as well.
Hopefully his banner is much better than mine. So
that's what I thought. I need to get two of them. So at least I'll get something.
I'm on. Can you guys
oh, he's on. Hold on.
I'm in.
Hold on. Mish.
Champ.
Hey guys, how are we all doing?
Mate, we are good. I'm certainly fine. There he is. Thanks for joining me, Hamish. The team, they need you. There's, as I said there, we're now up to 72 people, 72 riders at the moment, heading towards 240 miles, with lots of people joining in and out.
I saw Davy's Instagram earlier, him recouping and was on the floor, and I was like, oh, jeez, it looks absolutely horrible. So, yeah, a lot braver man than me, that's for sure.
Well, Davey, tell him how horrible it is.
Oh man, Hamish, yeah. I mean, you're welcome to come around and finish my set if you want, Hamish.
I would, but I can't.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, 100k to go now, so like psychologically, I can get through that. But I mean, you know, there's cramp, there's tears, it's very sweaty. My wife's complaining about the smell now.
Oh no.
But we're having a good time. That's the main thing. Raising lots of cash.
Yeah, 100%.
But lads, obviously a huge thank you to you both for what you've done for Team Edinburgh. But obviously Doddy Aid, Richie, Jamie, I'll come to you first. Just Doddy Aid and everything, the community. How much have you enjoyed being part of it?
Yeah, it's been brilliant. It's actually pretty inspiring. I think that it can kind of span so far. It's just a testament to the hard work that goes in behind the scenes from all the guys and to Doddy himself. I think he's such a massive character, especially in our game. Yeah, it's pretty inspiring that someone's story can be told in so many ways and raise so much money. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and mate, when we were down at Wardy Beach, you showed me up with the amount of time that you were in the water. But was that I put that down when people were like, what was Jamie Ritchie doing down there? I was like, well, he's part of Team Edinburgh. He was in there. I said he did about 10 minutes, but that was just your rehab. You had to do that. You weren't just trying to beat everyone on the beach, were you?
No, I used to do it quite a bit with a few pals. We'd go down a Friday morning and we'd try and aim for about 10 minutes in the water. And then if I do recovery in the week and I'm doing an ice bath, I'll try and do about 10 minutes. So when you guys were in and out, I was like, oh, I might as well stay in for 5 and then get home.
Yeah,
I hadn't done it away. It was pretty cold that day. It was pretty cold.
It was cold. Mish, you missed that one. You missed that cold dunk.
I know, I can't remember. I don't think I was allowed to do it because I was on the heat immersion, so I was only allowed hot baths. It was a bit too cold for me. I wasn't allowed that stiff back.
We need to do a sauna challenge. We need to get the heat raised up to get you in that. Mish, how's things? And obviously your involvement with Team Edinburgh. We've seen you across social media. We've seen you on rowing machines, all sorts of stuff. How have you enjoyed the month so far?
Yeah, it's amazing. Just to touch briefly on what Jay said as well, I think the community feel and the community spirit, not just from Team Edinburgh, but across everyone who's getting involved with Doddy Aid, it really is. It's quite special. I saw someone in town the other day just wearing a Doddy snood, and you sort of catch eyes, and I was like, "Oh, Doddy snood," and they just, they put my thumbs up, and he put his thumbs up at me, and it's a really nice feel. Everyone just getting involved, and everyone who's donated and got snoods, and it really does bring people together and bring community together, even if you might not know the full story about Doddy, you might not know it, you might not like rugby, but it's all part of it. And I think it's amazing how much money has been managed to get raised over the last 2 years doing it. And it's a testament to everyone involved, and like Rob Wainwright and stuff like that, the energy he has, and it's incredible. Davey, all the people involved with Team Edinburgh and all the other teams, it really is. It's great.
It's good. Well said, both of you. Jamie, just as we look ahead, we had Hoggy on this morning. Scotland camp. We saw you across social media back in camp, laughing at guys missing kicks, falling over themselves, all sorts of stuff. Was it good to be back with the boys? Good to be back in camp?
Yeah, it's good. The good thing about Six Nations is we all get together kind of a week before we start games, and it's always a good fun week, like getting used to each other again. And Mish and I were training on Friday. It was probably one of the hardest Scotland sessions I've certainly had. So we've earned our weekend. But yeah, it's been good to get back in with the boys, and there's something special brewing within that group. I think we've got so much depth now. There's so many young guys who are really pushing for places, and I think the squad's in a great place. It has been for the last couple of years, and it's such a good feeling around the environment, not just on the pitch but off it as well. And really excited for the Six Nations.
Absolutely. And Mish, even the Six Nations, let alone Edinburgh. I mean, the strength and depth in Edinburgh at the moment. I was there at the last game against Brive. Obviously, you guys, you ground Brive down pretty early and they weren't up to much, but you guys got to play, you got to score tries, you got to get that winning feeling back, How's the feeling around the change room in Edinburgh? Obviously, with Mike Blair at the helm, but you look to be in a happy place, a strong place there going into games expecting to win.
Yeah, I think if you talk to fans and stuff like that, just from looking from the outside in, I think you can tell that it's a better vibe. It's a bit of a different vibe. Just picking up bits and bobs on Instagram, even my dad, who I don't like, he'll just notice little things, and it just seems like a much happier place. And I'm sure people can see that as well. The changing room at the moment, we're all in high spirits, and they're going to have a tough game today. I think 5:15. They're playing Ospreys today, which will be a really tough one. But what Mike's done and the rest of the coaching staff, all the players, is really good. And we're heading in the right direction. I mean, we've still got a lot of the tough teams to play, but at the moment we're top of the league, and it's going really well. And the atmosphere in Scotland camp, in Edinburgh camp, it's all going really well. So it's just trying to keep the momentum going through this period now. I think we've got Ospreys and then Leinster, so 2 really tough games. And again, the depth in the Edinburgh squad at the moment as well is really good as well.
Talking about the back row, obviously, where you guys specialise, a couple of youngsters. I saw that he got a bit of social media and a bit of content going out from Edinburgh. Ben Muncaster in the back row, bit of a prodigy player there. That was a bit of a good bosh that he put in to get over the line. What's he like, Hamish? He plays a bit like you. Is it okay to say that? Is it okay to say that?
He's a really good lad. Very enthusiastic. I think from day one when he came in, he's always going to be. He's quite a big character to have around the club, even at a young age of 19 or 20, however old he is now. And all the boys get on really well with him, and he's always willing to learn. He's a great player as well. So it's just, when he gets his opportunities, he's a young lad. It's just about trying to take them and try and get as much game time as possible. Take as much in, and that's the good thing about Benny. He's always willing to learn, and I think he'll be a really good player going forward.
Jamie, you're laughing there. Oh, Jamie's gone. Oh, he's back.
Oh, sorry, no, I'm back.
Jamie, you're laughing there. Is there competition between those two? Is Hamish having to keep
no, I was
boys
just
off the
laughing when Benny first came to Edinburgh. We had like a get together, a barbecue. I remember Mish and I were standing together, and he came over and asked some pretty outrageous questions, which I won't share here. But it's just like out of the gate, like first time we'd met him, like just some of the stuff he was asking us was brilliant. That's what I was laughing at.
So, I spotted him from the crowd. He's a character. There's a bit of personality there. Absolutely, and you need that in a squad. I was asking that.
Definitely, and especially from like young guys at the moment. I think everyone gets caught up with people at the moment, and they're all on their phones, and they're losing their personalities. But he is like such a huge character. It's actually really great to see from someone so young. So fair play to him. He's come into the group, and he's a big part of our squad. So. Yeah, that's good.
I was asking Hoggy this morning the things I always like to know about are off the field and behind the scenes, and I was thrown up that I'd heard Chris Harris was the fines master at a Scotland camp. Is that true? I think there's been some fines dished out already in the camp?
Well, Hoggy certainly nominated Charis as fines master. He does it really well. I think he did it in the autumn as well. So I'm sure there have been a few dished out early doors. There usually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And Hamish, what are you like in a Scotland camp? Are you up to pranks? Are you misbehaving, or are you head down and just gaming the whole time?
To be fair, in the autumns I took my Xbox in, and I was probably gaming a bit too much. But no, I love Scotland camp at the moment. It's the last year now, because we've been in bubbles and normally have to be around the hotel a lot more. I think although my wife hates it, I think it's brought the squad a lot closer. And I think, like Jay was touching on before, everyone in the squad, we all get on. We had to spend a lot of time together over the last few years after games and just during the week, and I think that's actually really helped the squad grow. And everyone in that squad also has a good personality, like wants to work hard but then can switch off. And I think like Jay said, it's just about pulling together and not being the if only team now. We've got to try and get some good results.
Yeah, well, there's a point. There's is it expectation? I think there's a lot of conversations we've had today with players, former players, that we believe in you guys. The squad that's there, the ability that's there, the Edinburgh, Glasgow, the clubs that are putting in performances, and then players like you, the pair of you, they've got the ability to really kick on. So it's exciting for us supporters watching on at what might be around the corner. It's exciting going into the England game. And Jamie, you'll be looking at the England game, and you won't be looking any further ahead. And obviously selection and all that's got to be made. But how do you yourself prepare for a game of that magnitude with a bit of expectation and the fans really behind you, thinking, hey, our team can do it?
For me, it's just about the kind of process that I would go through. So in the lead up to test matches, my most important thing is like feeling fresh. So make sure I'm getting my recovery right, doing all my prep during the week. So all the learning I need to do in terms of lineouts and plays, making sure I've got that kind of off by heart, so that come game time, I'm not worrying about anything. I feel like if I can get my head right and all those kind of boxes ticked, that come game day home at Murrayfield, you're not worrying about anything. All you have to do is go out there and play, and you've got the support of the fans and stuff, and that's a huge part of it for me is like I know that like I can't not be up for it because we've got 67,000 people there cheering us on. So it's such a good feeling. I think that was probably one thing I certainly got caught up with when we didn't have fans, was like, how am I going to get myself up for this game knowing that they aren't there? So yeah, for me, it's just about ticking all those boxes throughout the week and knowing that on game day, like, I'll be firing.
That's it, mate. Now, there's a man on Zoom right now who has been there, done it. Kenny Logan, tell the boys what you used to do on match day. What was that like?
I did the exact same as they did. No, slightly different. How you doing, boys?
Hey, mate.
Right.
I'm charged.
Have you been going all day? Have you been going all day? You just went on mute?
This is my, I've been on all day. Done about 60 miles or something. Anyway, no, it's interesting hearing about the young Moncaster, because I know his dad, and his dad is a larger than life character, so I can see his son in him. But it's good what Jamie said, and Hamish, you need these guys to be coming into the squad with character, because the mobile phone and all these things is such a disruption now, I believe. It really pisses me off. I see my son on it all the time. But it's really important that you get a good build-up, and you know, it's great to watch this group of players. As an ex-player and a fan of the team, and it's exciting times for Scottish rugby, because there's a lot of a bit of a hill at the moment. Fuck me. The competition. The competition's good. This Italian guy keeps chasing me. The Italians beat me. The competition's great in the squad, and I think that's what will drive you to become successful as a team. There's nothing better than people pushing from behind. So I'm looking forward to it. Can't wait till next week. Thanks for your support, boys, and on Doddy in general. I know you guys turn up to things, and maybe should do dinners and that. Really appreciate it. And Doddy appreciates it loads. So keep it up and enjoy this week and enjoy the Six Nations. Great tournament.
No worries.
Absolutely. Kenny, thank you very much. Just on that, guys, thank you. We really mean that for everything you do. There's people watching on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. There's people donating. They're reaching out to the Just Giving page, World in a Day, and they're going to doddyaid.com. So thank you for the continued support from everyone that is donating at the moment. There's lots going on. We've still got plenty of conversations to be had. I'm going to look for Rob Wainwright. Rob, you want to chat with the boys? Fellow back rower?
He's definitely still been on the machine.
Aye, how are we all doing?
Hey, Rob.
He's even got his glasses on.
Right, we need to put Kenny on mute. Hold on.
I'm on it.
Yeah, I'm at 221 miles. I've been dragged along by Steve and Jamie and James. They've done a great job for me. I've just missed them briefly, so I can just do a nice low pace for a while. But it's great to have you, Hamish and Jamie, not just here today, but you've been fantastic. You know, whenever I send another "can you do this" request, you're straight back with a yes, and it really is much appreciated. And you've been great champions of Doddy Aid, and it's great to have you as part of the family.
Rob, in your prime, would you have got in the back row right now?
Well, maybe there's a slot at number 8, but there's certainly not on either side, is there?
do a job at number 8. Now, Rob, the development of the squad, obviously, and what we see now in going into the England game, I know you're excited and you chatted about it earlier, but this is a squad that could do it. You know, this is a squad that could go forward.
Yeah, it's you know, everyone that we've asked this question of over the last 11 hours we've been doing this now, everyone believes in the players, and they believe that the players believe in themselves. That's the key thing. And I remember the greatest feeling in the world was to have a run of form with your club and take that onto the international stage and look at the people you're playing against and say, I can stand up tall with these guys. You know, they're no better than I am. And I think certainly when we look at Jamie and Hamish, that's what we think. And I hope you you have that quiet arrogance, which in Scotland you've got to keep quite well covered up. But as long as inside you have that belief, you look over at the people you're playing against and say, yeah, on my day, I can be better than these guys. And that's hugely uplifting for us as fans. We've had a pretty tough time over the last, well, right into my era. We had some dreadful times. And to go into the beginning of the Six Nations, play England at home, and really consider that, God help us, we're favourites for that game. There's a lot of belief out there among the fans, and it's all based on the quiet belief you have. And I remember before England away last year, I remember you doing an interview, I think, Hamish, and saying, well, we all believe we're going to win. And we, you know, I'm not sure everyone who was watching necessarily were convinced, but you believed you could win. And what a great day that was. What a wonderful victory. And it was carved out through discipline was the big thing. The discipline that day, you hardly made any errors at all. And to do that in someone else's backyard, particularly down at Twickenham, which is a very inhospitable hunting ground for Scotland, it was truly amazing. And now this year we have the opportunity to start at home against England as well. So hopes are riding high. I hope that doesn't become a ball and chain around your necks.
Rob, well said. Guys, we wish you every success with what's to come, the Six Nations, with the rest of the season with Edinburgh. Thank you for everything that you're doing with Doddy Aid. It's obviously greatly appreciated and you're making a massive difference. So really appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. And keep going, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. And yeah, good luck with the last 100K or so. Cheers, guys.
Well done, guys.
I
Okay.
have to say that I think Hoggy wins the I'm the most relaxed person award, doesn't he? Hoggy manages to look almost asleep and horizontal when he lies back on his sofa chatting to us. You're looking far more alert.
Lads, he was in a hotel this morning getting ready to play London Irish, and I mean, he'd just woken up. He was just out the sauna. He was chilling. Everyone that was on bikes was just like, "Oh, fucking hell!"
Was he under his red light?
Was it? He might have had that earlier. We've had Laidlaw on as well from Japan, so it's been a good showing from you, Scotland lads. So really appreciate it. Okay.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers, guys. See you later.
Bye now.
Cheers, man. Thank you.
Just appreciating seeing the comment there from Sergeant James. Greg kind of says it all, 103rd Battalion, 40 to go, by God, this hurts. That message has been up there for a few minutes, so he's probably 35 to go now, but it's true, you don't need to go looking for endurance, you know, it'll find you, it catches you at some point, and then you just have to grind through it. I see you've got Dougie Vipont jumped on as well.
He has.
Looking sharp.
Looking sharp because I've just started. That's why I'm looking sharp. I had big plans today, big plans to be on about 3 o'clock this afternoon and stay on to my 5 o'clock kind of thing. I've done 2 hours by the time I chat, but today got away from me and I literally been running going, no, it's 5 o'clock. Shit, I better get down there. So completely dry, not sweating yet, but I'm going to stay with you for an hour or so. But you guys are doing an amazing job, truly amazing job.
Good on you, Dougie. You could have just done what Kenny Logan did. Kenny's been on all day. He just turned his camera and his mute off.
Well, yeah, exactly. But I've been listening. I was on the
I think I'm at 600 miles now.
Is he spraying water in his face? Is that what he's doing? He's just like Kenny's got the water bottle, making his face kind of sweaty.
I'm just unfit and fat. Simple.
Dougie, how are you, Dougie?
Amazing. Flying the flag for North and Mids, Kenny, because you could have been in that team, Kenny, but no, you chose to be a barbarian, essentially a loser. North and Mids.
Through home pressure.
Disgraceful you did that. But Rob and I are rocking it, aren't we? We're rocking the North and Mids, doing rather well. And as is everyone else. I've been watching all day. I've been dipping in and out all day, and I saw Grieg this morning, and listened to him and all his chat about his life over there in Japan. Amazing stuff.
He's having a great time over there.
Have you been to Japan, Dougie?
What you saying?
I've been to Japan. It's an amazing place. I was there for 3 or 4 months with the Rugby World Cup. It's an amazing place. You can see why he's enjoying it so much.
Fantastic, absolutely, and they obviously love him. He's a good man, Grieg, and he's having a good time over there. And they obviously saw that video after that Scotland game, and they thought, "Here's a guy who likes to enjoy himself." So
we'll have him. We'll have him.
Exactly. And get some whiskey into him.
I only ever met Greg in the past when he's come through to the Thistle Suite when I've been pulled in by Doddy up on the stage. And it was always when we'd lost at home. So Greg would come up. And when you've lost at home, no one is a bundle of laughs. So I always thought he was quite a miserable character. I've only met him at the lowest points in his life. And so he's been absolutely wonderful.
I think she's a great lad too, to be honest. I think she's a great lad too. I think she's a great lad.
Not so sure. Not so sure.
Doogie, have you recovered from the kitchen, from the cooking night, from the curry night? You've been a full recovery.
I tell you, that was an unbelievable evening last Saturday, a week ago. Yeah, last Saturday night. And Nick Nairn was in my kitchen, of course. For those of you who didn't see it, it was absolute carnage. He made a garam masala, his own garam masala, but he used my dried chilies that I'd got from down in Langham, and I dried them from this little kind of. And anyway, they were just like Vesuvius chilies, bonkers hot chilies. So when he started cooking with them, the smell of the chilies just like filled the kitchen. We were tears, we were coughing, we couldn't, and the food was so hot, but it was a great laugh. Calamitous, I think is the good way to describe it.
It was fantastic viewing, and the flamethrower. You call it a blowtorch, flamethrower. When you couldn't get it off, I was crying with laughter.
Well, Nick knows what he's doing in the kitchen, and the biggest mistake he's ever done is he's started giving me things to do. And I think I'm doing well, and then suddenly, the bloat. I was going, that's the wrong way. And of course, we were drinking quite a lot of the drinks as well that we were, that were sponsoring the evening. So yes, it was a good night. But yeah, the blowtorch was particularly. It was almost turning inferno in my kitchen, so it would have been tricky getting off the broadcast if we'd gone on fire.
But it was laugh after laugh.
You'll be glad to hear, Doogie, I had all the same problems with our blowtorch, which I kept putting down after doing the side of the chapatis, and then the flame would be sort of burning our bread maker or whatever it was next to, and Romain would say, "What the hell are you doing? What do you mean?" and point out that I was burning things up. Then it ran out of juice, and I'm embarrassed to say we could not refill it until we realized we were trying to refill it through its nozzle rather than its refilling aperture. We spent about 10 minutes with spray coming all over us. So why isn't this working? Until we looked underneath the thing and found the hole we should have stuffed it in.
I thought it
was a great evening.
It was.
It was a fantastic. Sorry, go on.
No, I think I was going to say you use a weed burner or something, to use the device instead, because that's kind of standard kind of farmer form.
Farmer stuff.
Yeah.
You've seen the farmer chat that's been going on the big ride, haven't you, Doogie?
I have indeed.
We've Nashi, we've got a captains group for all the 20 teams that are doing the Cardiff ride, and one of them was a farmer and asked if anyone would like to help him with a piece he was doing for Scottish Farmer when he was going to mention the ride. Anyway, it precipitated a display of tractor showing off and tractor envy, second to none. I've never seen anything like it. Tractors appearing out of just about every team. So, and a big Massey Ferguson versus John Deere battle breaking out. Only farmers could get too worked up about these things.
Some of us actually wanted to ask serious questions on that forum, but it just went down into some sort of agri Top Gear. There was no control of the group. Fantastic.
Doogie, I'm going to bring in Hank, who is from the GCN network, who is good pals with Mark Beaumont. And I'm going to bring Mark in as well, because I'm sure you've got a couple of questions about long distance riding as you're going to be taking on the 500 miles. So let me find Mark. Where's Mark? And we'll just do a wee bit on the distance. Hank, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I feel bad that I'm not riding my bike. It's almost strange, getting involved with this and feeling like the odd one out when I'm not on a turbo, because I'm normally the odd one out when I am on a turbo. So, but the reason for that is that I've got a big challenge tomorrow. So everything's set up for that. And so I haven't been able to train today, which is fine. I'll let you guys do all the work for me.
Hank, it's clear that you've got fans, because you've just come on screen and all the Beaumont ladies have just rushed into the room for a wave.
Oh, I love them all. I love them all. Well, I've had a few dark times when I've arrived at their Edinburgh house unannounced, and so we've got deep connection of me in a very, very cold paddling pool. So yeah, I don't think they've forgotten either.
Hank, tell us about the hat you're wearing.
Yeah, so this is an M&D hat that a friend started. One of her family members got diagnosed with it, and it's something that it's a growing. Dodier is doing obviously amazing things for reaching a global audience and letting everyone spread the word of M&D, and so it just shows that small people as well. I say small people, she's actually quite small, but other people are also trying to help fight that cause, and so I've done that.
So what's the story there? She started a clothing brand, and then was proceeds going to research or something like that.
That's exactly it. It's called M&DT, and she's literally got a few t-shirts, hoodies, hats, and she's got out and designed this clothing, and then spreading the word through that, really through fashion. And it's kind of something I put in when I was doing some support for it in a GCN delivery ride when I took on a Deliveroo challenge, and so I've kind of connected it, kind of sort of heard about it through you guys and the World in a Day, and then I thought I'd try and help as well, and see what I can do. And not that I can do a huge amount, but at least just wearing a hat can do something.
Well, you're joining us. A lot of people on the Zoom call started at 6 o'clock this morning. I'm sitting at 364k, so just warming up here. But there's quite a few riders who are doing a ride from Edinburgh to Cardiff in a few weeks. Dougie Vipont off the telly just joined us, and he's a nervous man, and he wanted a professional cyclist like yourself to give him a few tips for how to avoid saddle sores and punctures.
Yeah, gosh, saddle sores and punctures. Do you want me to answer that?
Well, I mean, we've seen you in tears with saddle sores, so maybe you're not bad to ask.
Yeah, I mean, saddle sores. I am my arse is my prized possession. It seems, just because if I'm not on a good saddle or I feel a slight bit of discomfort, I'll let everyone know about it. And Mark's heard more about my arse than probably anyone else. But yeah, no, I've had some issues with regard to riding a penny farthing around a velodrome, and that seemed to go viral, of me screaming on a bike. So it just shows, if you do get a wrong saddle or it does break, then you can be in a world of pain. So make sure you've got a good saddle and that you've done some miles on it, and also you've got a good pair of shorts, because that's absolutely key. So good pair of shorts, and change your shorts regularly if you can.
There's been a bit of a theme over the last couple of years, because you're from a roadie background, racing. You love crit racing, short, incredibly sharp. You're a bit of a boy racer, and then I've dragged you into the adventure world, and there's been a bit of a theme of trying to bring Hank, and most of the time you're smiling. There's the last year we've been sort of stuck in the UK for obvious reasons. How would you reflect on our two very different Land's End John O'Groats efforts last year? We've got, what was his name? Sergeant, get his rank wrong.
Oh, you got it right, Mark.
Sergeant James Gregg, who's about to do a relay from Land's End to John O'Groats, or John O'Groats to Land's End, very similar to what we did last year. So again, Hank, what are your reflections on that mission?
I think the first thing to recognize is that ultra endurance is freaking incredible. It's something that I didn't do, and I now am absolutely obsessed with. There's that you just go through so many mental, physical battles with regard to long distance riding that make you a better person after every single challenge. And I think that's the key thing is just engrossing yourself in a long challenge over a period of time, so you do get those ups and downs, and you know when you're coming around and you know when you're not coming around, and if you're in a really good place, you're going to know that you're going to be in a really bad place, and if you're in a really bad place, there's going to be times where you're going to be in a really good place. So I think the times that I've actually learned more about myself as an athlete, as a person, mentally and physically, is doing ultra endurance rides with yourself. So if you are taking on any sort of ultra endurance challenge, whether it be 50 miles, whether it be 100 miles, enjoy the process and kind of like be in the moment and just look at every mile as one step closer to the goal. And once you've achieved that goal that you think is unachievable when you set out to do it, you'll realize, you know, how amazing the challenge was and how you grew as a person after it. And the reason you kind of use that as an intro is because I learned so much about myself doing Land's End and John O'Groats, and I did it twice, and I completed one, which was the relay with yourself, and that was very much in my comfort zone. Yeah, I found it's incredibly hard because lack of sleep and hour efforts every hour on the hour, it kind of was pretty relentless. But yeah, I finished it. We did it in 39 hours. We averaged this ridiculous time. And I thought this was a great, easy completion of Le Jog. Little did I know that just, a month or two down the line, we were doing a tandem challenge, which was a whole different story. And getting on the back of a tandem, I always have these really ambitious goals where I think up a goal, or Mark thinks up a goal and then chucks it at me. And then I go, yeah, that sounds great, because it's so hard that I'm going to feel great when it's completed. When this one, I had my worries. And looking at a tandem, and even riding a tandem, if anyone's ridden a tandem on the call right now, they'll realize how, I don't know if I can swear, how bloody tough riding a tandem is. And it creates a whole different dynamic, and you have to ride a bike differently, and you have to be so in tune with the rider who you're riding with. And so it chucked all these different things into the mix. And we did our first ride, and I was so close to Mark's arse, like my nose was pretty much rubbing on his arse. And like I'm a big fan of Mark. You know, we spent hours and hours in a tent together. I farted and he probably farted. He didn't let me pee in a pee bottle because I'm quite not sure why. We shared jelly babies, which we call chamois gate. You know, we got very good rapport, but yet being so close to his bottom was something that I wasn't really ready for. And so an hour was fine, but moving into 24 hours and going to 28 hours and me really suffering behind and not thinking I can do it, and then having that whole battle in my mental, in kind of my mental state, going, I'm really suffering here. Like my body's giving up on me in certain aspects. So my knees are exploding, my ankles are exploding, but I don't want to tell Mark that, because that's going to hinder Mark's performance. And Mark doesn't want to have, you know, a guy that's not pulling his weight sat on the tandem behind him. So, you know, that's not good for anyone. So I went through this whole mental game of like, should I tell Mark? Should I not tell Mark? And should I put out the power? And then I was trying to put out power, and then I couldn't maintain that power. And it all kept collided in me in tears. And again, for the fifth time of working with Mark. Don't know what happens. And then we kind of stopped. But actually realizing that when we got to Edinburgh, or just before Edinburgh, and I kind of pulled the pin and we kind of failed, I guess, for the first time of taking on a challenge. It actually taught me a whole lot about that. I can't just go into challenges blindfolded, and I can't go into challenges that I'm not fit enough in my mental mind, but also physically. So I'm on the start line and I realized that I'm in the best possible shape that I can possibly get to on that start line, which I wasn't. And that kind of showed that the pre and the prep beforehand wasn't enough. And I think the learning I've taken from that whole journey and from that whole experience is that prepare as much as you possibly can. So when you're on the start line, you feel like every stone is unturned. And that's the biggest piece of advice I've learned, is that when you're going into a big challenge and you want to succeed, then really put time into your preparation. Sergeant James will tell you, piss poor preparation equals piss poor performance, and it is very much that. Sorry, that's a very long-winded story. If I bored anyone, I'm very sorry.
But the schedule on that, for anyone that's interested, was 6 hours on, 10 minutes off, 6 hours on, 10 minutes off, 6 hours on, 10 minutes off. For the record was 45 hours, Land's End, John O'Groats. So we made it 30 hours. We made it from Land's End to Abingdon Services, just past Gretna. And it's interesting because your first 10-minute break is like bish bosh bash, that was all right. But time travels when you get off the bike. 10 minutes is nothing. And then thinking your way through another 6 hour set as you go into the night, and then 30 hours in, we were preparing for our second night. And, I do sympathize because Hank on the back, he can't see the road, he can't steer, he can't brake, he can't change gears. All he can do is turn the legs. It's like being on a turbo but blindfolded. And I can see that was a massive mental challenge. I've got a lower natural cadence than Hank does, so I was probably breaking his knees. But you learn a lot, and I think there's always this assumption that you'll somehow get through it, and if you fail, that you need to have some big learning from it.
What's up, Peloton? I'm Dennis Morgan. Thank you for joining me for this ride in Big Sur, California. Today we're riding.
There we go.
And I think it's interesting, off the back of a project like that, where you've got a film crew and you've got a lot of sort of professional pressure to get it done, to just be kind on yourself. To just be kind and say, you know what, sometimes things don't work out, and that's okay. I think the way I described it is, some things you could just put on the shelf and it's stories for the grandkids. Because otherwise there's that constant pressure to, learn and be better and growth mindset. And that's all very well. I'm a big fan of that, but it can come at an expense where it's just this huge pressure to perform. I think sometimes you just need to remember to sit back and go, do you know what? It didn't work, and that's okay. And also, how often in life do you take on something where there's genuinely the chance that you might not succeed? And I think that's interesting when you're doing stuff hard enough where failing is an option. Many people never do anything that they can possibly fail at. So it's quite good to go through that every so often.
And I guess the biggest thing is actually failing at anything in life, whether that's, business, whether that's work or anything else. Those are the biggest lessons you learn. So I guess it should be taught as a positive rather than a negative.
Yeah. I saw we had Coisty back on the call there. Nashi, I don't know if you want to bring him back in.
Has he popped up, Coisty? Where is he?
Hank, are you allowed to tell us what your challenge is, or is that top secret?
Yeah. So tomorrow I've been chucked a challenge where I'm going to try and basically crack Zwift. So I'm going to ride every road on Zwift in one ride. The idea is that I try and navigate through all the worlds, covering all the kilometers in every world, and seeing what time it's going to take me and if it's even possible. The funny thing is I've actually got my dad helping me through the night. He's going to be sat in a chair telling me to go left or right. But my worrying thing is that my dad's the most untech savvy person in the entire world. and he has got no understanding of the virtual world. So so when I said you don't need a compass and you don't need a map and there's no north, his mind blew. So this might be an interesting video, but it should be out next week.
And I mean, tank commander Hank Starr, I mean, he's got a military background. He'll enjoy a bit of logistics, but you know, maybe not a professional bike rider. You need a wingman for this. Do you know how far all the roads in Zwift are?
It'd be around 450k.
Wow. Okay. Good on you.
If I can just jump in here, I can see Ali McCoist has just unmuted himself. How are you, Ali?
I'm doing well, boys. How's everybody doing?
They're all doing
Lycra.
fantastic.
Have you got your Lycra on?
I have. I thought I'd make the effort for you.
Yes, champion. Absolute champion.
Coisty,
How are you doing? More to the point, we're okay, but how are you doing?
We're doing grand. We're doing grand. You went with blue. I'm not surprised.
Well, there was no other option in this house.
Ali, Dougie Vipon was saying before you came on that he signed you up for the 500 miles down to Cardiff. Is that true?
He might have. Whether I make it or not is another thing. I think I'd struggle to do that in a Yamaha.
You're on the train. You're on the train.
I would maybe, I'd certainly like to do some of it, I think. We'll see how it goes, but I'll need to get some serious training.
You've not got long.
It's a week on Thursday, Ali. A week on
I know
Thursday
it is, I'm aware of that.
That's really interesting. Hank just said there it's important to be on the start line in the best position or best state you can be physically and mentally. So do all the preparation beforehand. I started my training for this about 3 weeks ago, so I'm not going to be going in the best place physically or mentally to do it. But I'm only part of a team of 4, so I've got some really good riders in my team, so I'll be fine.
You'll be absolutely fine, Dougie. It was interesting when I was on having a cycle this morning. I heard one of the lads talking about the difference between the elite cyclists and the very, very good cyclists. And he said it was amazing, actually. He was talking about going up one of the hills. And I think his time, and he's a very, very good cyclist, I think his time was about 8 minutes. And he said the really top pros were doing it in about 6, just over 6. So it's amazing, isn't it, the different levels?
Yeah. Big time. It's very worrying, very worrying. But Hank, this thing you're doing tomorrow, so how are you going to manage to keep yourself kind of fed and watered during that? Because if you're doing something like 450k, that's a monster challenge.
Yeah, I think I've learned through the years of what I need and what my body craves at certain periods over 24 hours. And the great thing about sitting on a turbo, I mean, the only great thing about sitting on a turbo for that period of time is that you do have the access to food, water, whenever you need it. So just a lot of electrolytes, and then I'm just going to stick to kind of like main meals, so like pasta and rice cakes and all that kind of stuff. And then if I have real dips, I might have an espresso every now and again. But it's one thing when you're starting out doing ultra endurance, where you're doing these big endurance rides, you do start to understand your body a bit more and what you need and what your body craves, and then you can. We and Mark has been working with Laura Penhall for a long time now, and she is kind of really helped my understanding on what my body needs, because actually you forget of how much your body needs, how much fluid you need and how much food. You always underestimate, because you can actually run on fumes, and then it hits you when you don't expect it. So my whole career I never ate enough. And only now is what going into this stuff, you realize that you just need to constantly eat. And one thing, Mark was 10 times better than me. He just kept eating, and so how I did these challenges was just basically copied him. If he ate, I made sure I ate. The other thing with tandem is that I actually had to feed him, so it kind of made me think about, because I fed him and made sure I fed myself at the same time.
You had your head at his backside and you had to feed him as well.
Yeah, I mean,
it's the worst journey of all time.
Let's just call it, we were basically like Siamese twins. We just had and so I guess we've done some mad things, and I'm hoping we've got some we've got some mad adventures on the horizon for 2022. But let's just say getting on a tandem isn't going to be something I'm going to be doing in 2022.
Ali, when we're talking about food here, Darren Heath has reminded me, and do you remember last year when we finished this, you were offered to get some lobster. What's for tea tonight?
A little bit safer. We're going for a lasagna this evening with a salad. Yeah.
Oh, yes.
The lobster wasn't a great success due to the fact I was a chef. So we're sticking to something a little simpler. Lasagna with a nice salad.
You can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with a lasagna and a nice salad. That's a staple.
Absolutely.
Ali, can we touch a little bit on sort of the past season in the football and the commentary you've been doing? Because
of course,
every time that I see you commentating, you go viral on Twitter. You seem to be hitting a chord with the fans at the moment, and everything's just going well. You're having a good old time.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I've got to say, you sometimes got to pinch yourself because we're sitting effectively, not necessarily the best seats in the house, but certainly the best view in the house. 9 times out of 10, we're sitting right on the halfway line, a view of the whole pitch, and basically you're covering everything. And I think one of the fortunate things from my own point of view, lads, is I've been doing a lot of the Amazon Prime games in the English Premiership, and I think it's kind of hitting a chord with a lot of the fans. The fact that there's no side to me in the respect that I'm a Rangers man, so I don't have a Liverpool angle, I don't have a Manchester City angle, I don't have a Chelsea angle. So I think it's easier to accept. Nobody likes your team getting criticised, but obviously there are times when you have to be honest and do it. And I think they find it slightly easier coming from somebody who's totally impartial. So I think that's one of the benefits. But I've got to say, no, I've been really lucky. I mean, over the Christmas New Year period, I saw Man United, Chelsea, Spurs, Liverpool, Leicester, all the top teams. And it was just great. I mean, as you know, I'm a bit of an anorak when it comes to football. So having that as your job, I've got to say, very, very lucky and very enjoyable.
You're loving it. There was a wee story I saw on one of the social media platforms, was that someone was going to name their child after a goal scorer or something. What was that story? Do you remember that one?
Yeah, well, I can tell you the one that it did happen, believe it or not. There's a great, and a lot of the guys will know, Indian restaurant in Glasgow, Mr. Singh's, and it's run by Sati and his brother Bobby. Wonderful lads, and we've known them for 100 years. They're great lads, and this is a true story, and it goes way back to when I was playing. Sati's wife was pregnant with I think the first child, the second child, and Sati, and his wisdom, announced before the birth that if it was a boy, he'd be naming it after the first Rangers goal scorer in the upcoming Old Firm game. Well, sadly for the Kazetsnov family, I beg your pardon, sadly for the Singh family, the first goal scorer wasn't Mark Haley, it wasn't Trevor Stephen, it wasn't John Brown or Ian Durrant. It was Russian midfield stroke defender Oleg Kuznetsov. And there lies the story of the naming of Oleg Singh. Who I have to tell you guys, has turned into the most wonderful young man, and one that his mum and dad and ourselves are all really proud of. But it's a great story, isn't it?
Oh, it's a brilliant story. It's a brilliant story. Dougie, if we can move to you, Dougie, some stories from, I don't know, life in a rock and roll band. You must have some funnies. And Ali, have you ever been to a Deacon Blue concert? Have you ever seen the band live or anything like that?
I have.
Yeah?
I have. And in fact, Dougie, the irony, I'll tell Dougie a story. The last time I met Lorraine, funny enough, and Ricky, was at Bristol Airport. I was chasing the last flight to Glasgow, and I could see two figures in front of me running ahead. So I didn't know who they were. I've got my head down. You know that way you're trying to catch the last flight. Anyway, I followed them up the top of the stairs to get into the plane, and they both turned round at the same time, and it's Ricky and Lorraine. And Ricky turns and said, with a fair idea that we're 15 minutes late, and if there was MD in the planet going to be after us, you might be the one that was after us. and that was the last time I saw Ricky and Lorraine. But yeah, I've seen the band a few times. In fact, I was at a gig last night. I was at the Stranglers concert last night, in the O2 in Glasgow. I love, Dougie and the boys know, I absolutely love my music, and I love live music. And there was 8 of my primary schoolmates. We've all got together again, and we're all 60 this year, and there was 3 of them, believe it or not, 60 last week. So we had a special surprise at the Stranglers concert last night, who we were reminiscing were actually the first band we saw in Glasgow in about 1978. So there's been a gap of 43, 44 years. And they've changed a bit, we've changed a bit. However, we had a brilliant time last night.
I was at a gig last night myself. It was amazing. It was 2 of my sons playing in a band called Cola. It was the first time my oldest boys played a gig with them. He got asked to join about 4 weeks ago. So they're playing a gig in Glasgow in Great Western Road. So 2 of my boys on the stage, and one playing guitar, one playing bass, and it was amazing. I just loved it. I couldn't be objective at all, because obviously the 2 boys were in the band. The other guys in the band I thought were great. So I loved it as well. New generation going off and doing things and their time to shine and all that. It was a brilliant experience. But Ali, you'll remember back in the 80s and 90s in Scotland that there were so many Scottish bands around at the same time. It was, along with us, Deacon Blue, Hue and Cry, Wet Wet, Danny Wilson, the Silencers, all these guys were around at the same time. The Claimers, of course, as well. All these Scottish bands were getting signed and all producing fantastic music. And it was just such a vibrant time to be around and sort of being creative and Scottish people are so supportive. Yeah, if you're doing well, and they really take you to their hearts. And I remember in 1990 we did a thing called the Big Day, which was when Glasgow was the European City of Culture. And we had this massive concert in Glasgow Green, a free concert in Glasgow Green, and we sort of finished it. Sheena Easton came over for that gig. Remember, Sheena Easton, when sometimes Scottish audiences love you when you're doing well, but if you think you've gone a wee bit too far, you get a wee bit too big for your boots, they're going to kick you in the arse. And that's exactly so. They had these little kind of fluorescents of bangles that they gave out to everyone. So while she was on stage, she had this pseudo mid-Atlantic kind of American accent, both sides throwing all these bloody things. And they were all just fluorescent things flying towards the stage. And we were on after her. So I was up on the stage behind the big scrim, so I could see through. And I thought, oh no, the crowd are turning nasty. It's going to be horrible. Live on Channel 4. They've turned nasty. They were kind of booing and throwing things at the stage. But we went on, and thankfully it was actually amazing. And I actually saw a video of it recently. That was such an amazing honour to be part of that, to kind of, I don't think we were probably of the quality and be that we were that successful at that time to get that gig. So it was a challenge for us. But I think we thought we're going to just have to grab it and go for it. We just played half an hour, all the hits, far too fast, loud as hell, and just got on with it. It was just such a great celebration of that time in Scottish music when there's so many bands around.
Dougie, tell me, the only thing I missed about that story, it's a great story, was who you were following on. Who was it?
Sheena Easton.
Oh, yeah, of course. I remember. To be fair to Sheena, she was very successful, but her Bells Hill accent did kind of disappear for a while there, didn't it?
It did. Absolutely, it did.
I was going to ask you, mate, you're talking about your 2 boys, and obviously, you'll be extremely proud of them, which is fantastic. But I'll tell you what I love more than anything at this moment, this time of my life, is actually going to the football with my boys. But also, believe it or not, I play with and against the 2 older ones at 5-a-sides and 6-a-sides.
Right.
And I just love it. I can't tell you. Just you've actually been on the park and playing against them. And we'll we've got a good squad of boys that play. You know, it's a reasonable standard. It's Big Boydie, Simon Donnelly will play.
A reasonable
Mark Wilson.
standard.
So it's a good standard. The boys that know their way about. But being on the same pitch with your kids is just it's fantastic. So I'm guessing, will you get an opportunity to play with the boys?
Well, I don't know. I mean, that would be great. That would be absolutely fantastic. I've got 3 boys, so the third one was there last night, and he's normally quite cynical about the whole thing. The fan's rubbish, but he was standing next to me going, "This is amazing." So he was loving it as well. So, and he actually has a drummer. The third one actually has a drummer, but he's not in that band. So, but it's if I get a chance to play them, it'd be amazing. And then Christmas actually was great because they were all over here. And because we had lots of people coming, I'd put the drum kit away, you know, for the spare bedrooms and all that, all the drum kit away and all that. As soon as they arrived, they're like, "Where's the kit?" So I come up straight away, put the drum kit out, had the bass guitar and the guitar out. My mother was here as well, and the racket, the noise in the house was unbelievable. Just like because they were just playing constantly. But it was great, and they were playing all their own songs as well. And it's just great. It's fantastic. I would love to play with them, but I'm scared that they're too good for me. That's the worry. I'm like, I make a mistake.
Well, I'm getting used to you, mate. That fear has become a reality with me, albeit in a 6 side court. But you did mention, and you're right, back in the day, 80s, 90s, another 2 or 3, certainly Scottish bands that I absolutely loved. Obviously, Charlene in Texas,
of course,
magnificent. But I also loved likes of Hipsway, Gun. I loved Gun. Gun were a kind of rocky beat music sound that I loved. I was really into Gun, Mark Rankin and the boys.
Yeah. Oh, just lost you there. Gun were amazing because they had that cover up of Word Up, didn't they? And it was brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And the amazing thing about Gun at that time is they had, I loved them as well because what's the guitar player's an amazing player as well. Can't remember his name now. Jules, yeah. I mean, a great band, all Scottish guys. The drummer was Mark Kerr, who was Jim Kerr from Simple Minds' brother, brother, who played drums in that band. And there's a great fill going into the second chorus. And it's like, Jesus, that's amazing. Who's the drummer? It's Mark Kerr. And he's a wee guy. He doesn't look like his big brother at all. And he's like, and you think, my God, all this kid, people from different bands, brothers and sisters, other people. It was amazing. Of course, Hipsway were around. They were fantastic. I love Hipsway. They're still playing. I think Graham Skinner is the singer, isn't he? Skin. Good-looking boys they were. My God. Yeah. And of course, Texas came out of Altered Images as well. The guys from Altered Images sort of formed Texas, and then Charlene. I used to go down. We used to go and record in Part Lane Studio. Ricky and I, when we were early days of Deacon Blue, we used to record in Part Lane Studios in the South Side. Yeah. And Charlene used to come in to Texas rehearsals in her school uniform. Finish school and come in to rehearse with that band. You're like, who's that? I was like, well, that's the Altered Images guys. I knew that's the singer. Amazing. I mean, she brought a massive thing to that band. Her and Ali, the other guitar player, with the same kind of haircut, didn't they? It's like amazing. I Don't Want to Love Her was that first single, and I just loved all that. It's just great playing slide guitar, sounding like Americans, kicking ass. Brilliant. Great, wasn't it? Brilliant.
Doogie, what was it like in the days before you had a record deal, before you were trying to make the big break and get signed and make it into the big stages? What was that like? What was that journey like?
Well, that was tough because in those days in Glasgow, to get a gig, you had to play at clubs because there was like King Tut's hadn't opened, Nice and Sleazy hadn't opened. I'm trying to think any other. So any of the kind of daytime sort of gigs were not really available. So if you wanted a gig, you played at Panama Jack's. Yeah. You go on stage at Panama Jack's at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, and you got work in the morning. Well, I was a student, so I mean, but Ricky was a teacher. He was teaching in the morning. So you go on stage at 11 or even later at night, and that was the only place you could go. So record company people would come up from London, and of course they'd be out having a lovely evening, usually steaming or whatever by the time they came to the show. But it's so late to get on, so really difficult to get audience to be into it because you had to go to a club to see live music. Then remember the Cardinal Folly?
I remember it well.
That was an amazing old Greek Thompson church in Glasgow, and that was an amazing venue. But again, it was only open late. You could only go and see gigs late on that. It was never kind of 7:30 in an evening gigs. It was always later on. Great place though, amazing.
Yeah.
Boys, it's Kenny. How you doing, mate?
Kenny, how are you, my son?
I'm good, son. I've been listening to these old great stories. It's fantastic.
You
Good to
look
hear
well,
you again.
pal. How are you? How's Gabby and the kids?
Kids are all good. Gary's well. My butt cheeks are killing me. Jesus. I need to know the saddle name and the name of the manufacturers and give me some new shorts because I'm sore.
Listen,
I'm good, mate. How's the kids? Are well?
Everyone's good. The wee man won today. They won 4-0 today. So it's a happy household today. The other one's game was called off. So the other 2 games were called off, but the wee man won 4-0. So happy days. Is that big one of yours reached 7 foot yet?
Almost.
What a
6'5" years now. And once I find his dad, we'll have a good idea. Soon, hopefully. He doesn't look like Simon Shaw, so that's a good thing.
Hopefully from the neck down.
Exactly.
Ali, Kenny was on the podcast last week and he was mentioning a couple of golf days. You've had some good days on the golf course, have you?
We've got a great squad. Running the risk of name dropping, we've got a good squad. To be fair, Kenny and I are the only 2 in the group that I don't know. Jimmy Nisbet's in it, Brian O'Driscoll, AP McCoy. We're very lucky. We've got a good squad, and in recent years, Kenny has very kindly got us involved in 1 or 2 golfing trips, and I've got to say they've been great fun, great company, great fun. Where have we been, Kenny? We've been to St Andrews, Turnberry, Spain.
Think of this year.
It's fantastic.
And you're an easy man to pin down, aren't you? You're easy to get hold of.
Easy.
No bother. Jesus Christ. Honestly, you've got to send them threatening letters at the government to get back to you.
Well, listen, I want it known publicly. I'm on the next one, okay?
Right, perfect. I'll send you an email, a DHL, a pigeon. I'll send you as much information as I can, mate. Just pick up one of them.
So listen, Kenny,
I'm gonna.
We had wee Hoggy was on this morning. I was having a blather with wee Hoggy.
Yeah.
I don't know how they got on today. We're playing London Irish today. Do you know how they got on?
They were losing at one stage.
They're losing at half time.
I'll tell you exactly how they got on. You just keep
well,
chatting
anyway, I was
away
having a good blather with him, and I'm just asking what he was thinking about the Six Nations coming up. And obviously, as you would hope and expect, the boys are really, really looking forward to it. I'm going through a couple of the games. I was through at the South Africa game, which I thought we did really well first half.
Yeah, we just made 4 mistakes in the second half where we put so much pressure on them and we knocked the ball on. We bad line out, bad scrums. And these are the little things.
Yeah.
If we get these things right, we put even more pressure. I mean, interestingly, down here, everybody's saying, nobody's talking about Scotland, but they're a good team. You know, they beat France away, England away last year. And I think the boys are just getting more and more confident. And they're at a good age now. You know, they're all 28s, 26s, a mature age. And I just hope they can go and enjoy it. And I mean, next week will be a big test, but I think we can do it. I think we can have a really good season.
Well, I was going to say, running the risk of upsetting our Celtic brothers and sisters, I thought that was a game we could have won last year as well.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I mean, we've just been about, we lacked that little bit at the end of a game where we just got to just squeeze them a little bit.
Yeah.
And we're a wee bit naive sometimes, but I think there's so many players playing across the world, you know, Finn and Hoggy, who are the 2 superstars in the back division.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's people like Harris is a fantastic player. He's done well in the Lions. And going away, having so many players in that Lions team will come back and they'll go, right, we're better than those lads. I'll just give them that confidence. So, are you going to the England game next week?
That's the one I'm missing. I can't go to that one, unfortunately. I'm missing that one. It's an Ireland game I think we're going to. We've got the...
Well, that'll be a good one.
Yeah. We've got the Kilmacombe minibus is leaving I think it's leaving at 6:30 in the morning for that one and picking me up at 6:45 in Bridge of Weir. Just so we're there in
Nice.
plenty of time, Kenny.
Well, it's easier picking you up than you. It's easier picking you up than trying to get to the bus station, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Oliver Reed used to be a bus driver.
Ali, I know. I mean, I've sent you messages myself. Is this reputation? Is it been forever, or is it just sort of?
Oh my God!
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to tell you, don't think you're special. Everybody gets it, right? I have to inform you, but Kenny will love this. Kenny will love this. In the last 2 or 3, well, since Christmas, Kenny, I've got Viv involved, right? My missus involved.
Yeah.
Now we Viv's keeping in charge of the diary, everything. So
I'll stop sending you those texts then.
By the way, she handed in her resignation last Monday. No, but I'm deadly serious. I thought in my 60th year I should try and get myself a little bit organised. So all emails and everything's coming through Viv now.
Good. I'm not going to text you again. I'm on emails. To be fair, Ali, you do talk. The best one I had the golf day last year. He said, "What time are we starting?" And I said, 11 o'clock. He went, "What time are we really starting?" I went, 1:30. So he said, "Right, I'm 10 minutes away." He says, 10 minutes away. So I spoke to him at 11:30. He's 10 minutes away. At 1:45, he's running up with a bacon roll. You know, he's got the biggest 10-minute lapse in between there and I've ever seen in my life before. But when he gets there, you know, he always gets there. That's the main thing.
It's no mean achievement hitting it 200 down the middle with a big roll in your left hand and it not affecting your swing or you know, Kenny.
Years of practice. So, if you want information, London Irish beat Exeter by 18 points to 14 earlier on today.
Wow.
Yeah, Glasgow got a great win against Connacht. I was actually watching it before I came on. That's why I was late on the bike because I was watching it. Glasgow really commanded that game. Good, very good. Well,
Scottish teams are doing well, to be fair.
Yeah.
And again, that gives you such good confidence going into Six Nations.
I was going to say to you, Kenny, Dougie, if I may, I used to love that, mate. The old, and perhaps one of you two might be able to enlighten me. I used to love the Friday nights at Glasgow, whether it was at Scotstoun or Partick. The Friday night games that the boys all loved. Are they a thing of the past?
Well,
on TV now, isn't it? Dougie?
Yeah, the frustrating thing is, and I know Big Al Kellogg was pretty upset. He's now the man in charge there. God, you know, how's that going to work out? But no, Big Al was kind of upset that when the URC fixture list came out, they had very few Friday night games. But I mean, God Almighty, you want to get back to that because Friday night at Scotstoun is a fantastic night. Amazing. And now in Edinburgh, at Damhill Stadium is a fantastic place when it's absolutely rocking and they're doing well. And they're playing really exciting rugby now, Edinburgh, as well. So, you know, these Friday night games, because people just come straight from work.
Correct.
Have a good
Do you
laugh,
think there's a big change from obviously playing at Murrayfield and going to that back stadium, feeling it's their own stadium, a bit more tighter and the team performs better?
Definitely.
I think they definitely are. I mean, Nashi will know that as well. You know, the first game was just like, this is what Edinburgh have been needing for, you know, forever.
Yes.
You know, and it was just fantastic because the sound in there was amazing and it was a lovely night as well. And they just played, and they played well. And the Edinburgh crowd were up. I never knew the Edinburgh crowd could shout. I'd never really heard them before. Because you don't hear them in Murrayfield. Even 10,000 Edinburgh fans in Murrayfield is you know,
you need 40,000 there too.
I've got to say, boys, they were extremely, extremely quiet at Tynecastle and Easter Road when I used to get through there as well. I didn't hear a cheep out of Dougie.
Well, they used to boo now and again, as I recall, to you, but
oh yes, they certainly did, mate. And with some justification, I mean,
How long, Ali? How long are you on for, Ali?
I've done. Where am I? I've been 35 minutes. I'm another 10 minutes in. I've got a lasagna and a salad waiting on me.
Nice.
Good man. Have you got electric bike?
Peloton.
Peloton. I just thought somebody else was peddling for you.
I was right into Dennis Norden. Is it Norden or whatever his name is? He's fantastic. However, he's gone a wee bit Sheena Easton on me with that accent, Dougie. He's killing me a little bit.
Boys,
Yeah,
see you later. Have a good one.
Cheers,
pal.
Kenny.
Enjoy,
Well
mate.
done. Well
See
done
you,
with
boys.
600 miles. 600 miles. Well done.
Good to see you, Kenny.
610, actually. I don't want to. Cheers, boys. Lots of love to you all. Keep up the good work. Cheers,
Just
pal.
for everybody watching on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, we've still got more guests to come. 6 o'clock tonight, we've got John Davidson, the Mad Giraffe and the Atlantic Roar. We've got JJ Chalmers on at 7 o'clock, and we've got Molly Hughes, who's been up and down Everest twice. She's walked the South Pole. She's on at 7:30. So still plenty more to come. But just now we've got Ali McCoist and Doogie Bipond. How many? We've got 70, just over 70 riders still going live on the feed. It's been an incredible day with incredible guests. Just so pleased for everybody that's got through their miles. There's been messages.
Can I ask you, Dougie? Dougie, how did you feel after that? How did you feel after that introduction? We've got guys that have walked to the South Pole. We've got people that are rowing across the Atlantic. And by the way, we've got Doogie Bipond and Ali McCoist on as well.
Just until the main guests appear. Yeah.
Yeah, don't get too big for your boots, Ali. That's it. You just
Absolutely.
keep you down.
What a fair old warm up back to you, right?
You're doing fine, Ali. You're doing fine.
Brilliant.
No, so what else? What other memories back in the day in Glasgow in the club scene and the bars? Dougie, Ali as well. What are some of the funnies or the sort of Glasgow things that were just common, but you look back and think, how did we get away with that?
Over to you, Dougie.
Right, I'll tell you. This is a story about London actually, and we used to all the Scottish fans would always stay in the Columbia Hotel, which is in Lancaster Gate. And I remember early days of the band, we heard of this band called Danny Wilson. They actually had been called Spencer Tracy, but they had to change their name. But we'd never met the guys from Danny Wilson, but we knew there were 3 guys from Dundee. So we got back from doing whatever it was, and into the hotel bar at the Columbia Hotel in London. And it was full of, Julian Cope used to stay there and all these kind of weird guys. Dave Mustaine from Megadeth and all these people just appear in this weird place, this hotel that also had sort of ex-American servicemen as well at the same time. It's a weird combination of guests. Anyway, so we get into the bar and we hear these 3 guys in the corner, and they're having this argument going, "You are the most unreliable person I've ever met." "No, you are the most unreliable person ever met." "No, you're the most unreliable person I've ever met." And they were screaming at each other in the corner. These three guys, 2 brothers and this other guy they were at school with. So Ricky said, "I bet that's Danny Wilson." So we kind of went over because we'd heard their music, we loved them, we'd never met them, and they were like, "Excuse me, what? Are you Danny Wilson?" "Yeah, we love you." And they were like, "Who are you?" So we got to meet them that night. But honestly, they used to fight. My God Almighty, they used to fight. And that night, but they were just getting so fed up with each other because having 2 brothers in the band and their mate from school who'd known each other, from primary school, they knew everything about each other, and there they are going through this thing. But actually, one of them was extraordinarily unreliable because they were shooting a video. I think it was their first ever video for Mary's Prayer. And Gary, the lead singer, it was a 2-day shoot. They were signed to Virgin Records. 2-day shoot. So Virgin were spending a fortune on their videos. Ours were all 1-day shoots. And if you look back at the Deep Blue videos, you can see that they're fish. But anyway, the early ones. But they had a 2-day shoot, but they'd been on the Pina Coladas the night before. And Gary Clark, the lead singer, couldn't get out of his bed. And on a video shoot, you start at 5 in the morning. It's a long day. You go in for makeup and all that. 5 in the morning. So the 2 other boys couldn't get him out of his bed. They went off in the taxi. They were phoning the hotel. They got the maid to go into open the hotel room, try and wake him up. Still, he wouldn't move. Of course, no mobile phones in those days. He missed the first day of their video for Mary's Prayer. It's like he actually slept through the first day. That's rock and roll, isn't it? The Dundonian boys get away with that stuff, We would never have done that. We were shiting ourselves. We're like, no way. We're going to be there half an hour early. We'll be there at 4:30. Apart from Ricky and Lorraine, obviously, they'd be slightly later because they're the singers and that's what they like, So, but no, but it was, no, you couldn't have missed that.
Brilliant.
First day of this video shoot.
Oh, I remember, Dougie, one of the nights we had, when I was on earlier talking to Hoggy, Big JJ came up in the conversation by John Jeffrey, who, as we all know, is an outstanding pillar of the rugby union community, particularly in the borders. Anyway, I was really pally with JJ, still am, but back in the day when I was sticky Steve's, and you probably remember the incident where, at best described, we'll just say he dropped a Calcutta Cup. So I think the following Wednesday, he was through in Glasgow. I arranged to meet him for a couple of beers. We're going to go to the Cotton Club. Remember up the hill, up remember the hill?
That's where I met Ricky, actually,
So,
in the Cotton Club, yeah.
Big JJ and I, a couple of beers, and we go to the Cotton Club. And we, Durant, and a few of the Rangers boys were there. So Durant, in his infinite wisdom, thinks it's a good idea to wind up Big JJ and says, "Oh, big man, have you not broke that Calcutta Cup with you that you broke, right?" And Big JJ looked at him and literally picked him up by the scruff of the neck, right? Actually picked him up. It was like something at a Halloween when Michael Myers picks up that poor guy in the house and his wee feet were dangling off the floor like that. And I'll never forget the fear in his face. And he says, "I'm only joking, big man. Can I get you a beer?" to which JJ put him down, and he did go to the beer and get us a cup. He go to the bar and get us a couple of beers. But some fantastic memories. But we had a great bond with the rugby boys, still do. Back in the day, I was through. One of my sport highlights was through at the Grand Slam game when Tony Stanger got to try in the corner. Just fantastic memories. And my dad, one of my first sporting experiences, my dad took me to Murrayfield when Andy Irvine scored the winning penalty from the touchline. I think it might be 1971, Dougie.
Yeah.
So, no, I must admit, some great memories of the rugby lads as well. And by the way, I need to tell you, Dougie, as you know, we got a lot of stick about it, us footballers having the odd night out. But we are novices compared to those rugby lads. Dear me.
Yes.
Novices.
I've heard you telling a story before about going away at a rugby weekend and away on for the pina coladas with the boys afterwards. And soonest you came in, what was it, on the Monday you had to come in, and the soonest said you had to do something to make sure that you were fit enough to play.
Aye, he stuck his on the scales, didn't he? Dougie? And I'd been on the Guinness, right? And I need to tell you, I can put on weight over the weekend without being on the Guinness. So he threw a surprise weight check on us on a Monday morning soonest. So I said to Durant, "We're in trouble here. So we need to get up to the usual trick." So Walter was the assistant at the time. Walter came over to take the weight. So whatever side Walter stood on, Durant would stand on my other side and lift my right elbow up. Therefore saving me a lot of money in fines. So it's an old ploy, but it's certainly effective back in the day, Dougie.
That's fantastic. And did you get away with it all the time? Did Walter would have known? Walter would have known you were up for somebody, not?
He knew. Listen, Walter saw right through us, Dougie. Don't worry about that. I think as long as we were doing all right and been reasonably successful, you know what it's like. He would turn a kind of semi-blind eye to it.
Yeah.
Guys, can I interrupt? A young man, 11-year-old Mika, has just completed 300 kilometers. So he's gone through the 300 kilometers mark today. 11 years old. He was with us last year. He's an incredible little boy. He's there with his dad.
Well done,
Mika. That's incredible. Amazing.
I pinned him there. Can you get the mic on, guys? How are you doing? See if we can get a bit of chat. Mika, how are you? You doing okay? No, we've not got them. They obviously can't hear, but yep, he's gone through 300 kilometers.
That's phenomenal. Phenomenal.
Incredible effort. But that's what we've seen today. I think we've got young Caleb still on, 14 years old. He's been going through the miles. He's heading for 240 with his family. There's just been an array of inspiring people from kids to all sorts.
I've seen quite a few people get to the double century, the 200 miler. And it's interesting how powerful those numbers are, because you know, your 201st mile is no harder than your 199th mile, but there's something about reaching those milestones that you know, mentally are quite hard to keep going through. And yeah, the last 40 is a tough shift for sure. And I know a lot of people are getting into that stage now.
Fantastic! What an achievement!
Yeah.
It's an incredible shift.
It's such an arbitrary number, isn't it? 240, but it's sort of become this rite of passage one day of, and I think some people must have finished already. How many have we got on the call now? 67. We had over 100 at one point. So yeah, I assume everyone left on the call now is going for the big miles. And I think there was a few people riding earlier on that were coming back for a late shift as well after their days out.
Mark, that's Sergeant James. He's got 4 left, and then he's at 240. Craig Hogg just tipped over 240 miles, so there's definitely some results coming in now. It's incredible.
If people are wondering about the translation, I think it's about 384, 385k you're aiming for if you're working in kilometers.
Glad you did that. I couldn't work that out, so well done. I had no idea what it was in kilometers. Amazing though, incredible effort. I tell you, one or two might have dropped off because Ali started talking about his lasagna. People might have just dropped off to stick their lasagna in the oven, and they're going to come back on. Who knows? But incredible effort from everyone, and you, Nashi, as well, looking after all this in the since the early hours, keeping the enthusiasm going. Brilliant job. It's not an easy gig, that.
I've loved it.
Been on the bike right enough, but you know, but it's not an easy gig you're doing. You're doing a magic job, though.
No, I loved it. It's been, the conversations have been great. No, and it's a big thanks to you guys and all the guests. And there's still more to come. We're going to get everyone across the finish line. We're going to keep going. Mark's obviously jumped into a lot of the conversations, and it's a huge thanks to him and Rob and everyone behind the scenes. It's been fantastic. A huge community effort, a team effort, and that goes to all the riders as well. It's been fantastic.